What up, what up, what up? You were live and direct on Petty Sports, the podcast brought to you by KINGZ Broadcasting Studios. It's your boy, the host, Famous Fees. They call me Fax. I'm here live with my man, Adam. Holla, Adam.
You already know what time it is, Mike. I think I need my mic, my friend. I appreciate it. You already know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into Petty Sports, Wednesday night, 8 p.m. I got to say, man, don't come into the show in a funk because we will switch up the intro music so quick. I was literally exercising major self-control not to break out with the keyboard and all the verses and everything. But you already know the deal, guys. Follow the show, comment, give us a call. It's not about where Petty Sports is at. It's about where you catch your content. And we're loaded tonight, as always. No week shows ever. Fees. Let us know what we got on the docket, brother.
Man, we got some of everything on the docket. Before y'all could even see us, I was just sitting there just 1, 2.
Right,
I was doing it with my hand since I couldn't say it.
Like, wait, we're not live yet. Hold on. Camera's not on.
Yeah, man. You know, we got to touch on the NBA All-Star Weekend. You know, some highs, some lows, some stuff we enjoyed, some stuff not so much.
Right.
Little NFL action always. Brian Flores found a job, apparently. We got the 75 NBA player, the top 75 ranked subsequently. Like, see, you know we got to dig into that. You're never going to put out a ranking and we don't have to dig into it. No way you can make it and it'll be right. I'm not going to agree.
Right.
It's too petty.
Right.
We're going to jump into these postseason wrap-ups. First division on deck is the AFC North. So y'all stay tuned if you're a fan of one of those teams. Man, the lineup is tight. We got a couple of little special topics for you that we'll jump into a little bit later on in the show. So, man, y'all strap in, get you a good drink, get you a stick, get your popcorn ready, take some notes. It's about that time. So, man, off the top, Michigan head coach Juwan Howard, he is suspended for the remainder of the season, which is
already
5 games. For straight up just pimp slapping the assistant coach from the Wisconsin Badgers.
Yeah.
After subsequently Wisconsin was smacking them on the court.
Whiffed.
So this little handshake debacle,
Yeah.
it levied the 5-game suspension along with a $40,000 fine. The head coach for Wisconsin also got a $10,000 fine. Do you think these punishments were fit for the infraction?
I mean, so it was definitely a difficult situation. You know, we've actually sat up here and talked about an incident where I don't remember what NBA player it was that was trying to run after LeBron James. I believe he played for the Sixers.
Sixers, I think.
Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. You know, you and I had pretty polar takes. It was like, you know, oh, well, nothing happened, so don't dish it out. But, you know, it's all about what could have happened because clearly he was upset. He was angry. He swung at his head more than anything. So he clearly meant to hit him. And when you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. I mean, it is what it is. I understand that it was a light graze and, you know, people were coming in there to break up the fight and everything, but it's still the intention that he had. And obviously, you know, I know you're dealing with, you know, college athletes, you're not dealing with, I guess, adults here, but this is still a gentleman's sport. We're still humble. We're still grateful. We still have to at least cooperate with everybody that's on the court. So I do think that the suspension was pretty solid, to be honest with you, because this just isn't something you see. I mean, you know, you had the announcer saying this is an ugly scene. We have a scrum here at Madison. Like, there was a lot going on in this incident, and I don't think, honestly, anybody expected it to escalate to this point. So I'm okay with the suspension, even, you know, if you're on the flip side of, well, he didn't do anything. It was the intention that he had. And everybody saw that, and multiple people got involved, so I'm totally okay with it.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually surprised that it was as light as it was. I mean, the Wisconsin coach, he was out of line for stopping him, like physically stopping him.
Yeah.
And Juwan expressed his displeasure with that, and that seemed like that was the end of it. Why the hell did he slap that guy? He wasn't even into it with the assistant coach. He just looked over like, you know what? I think I can reach him from here. Heard the 5 fingers say, slap! Why did you? Like, it was not a light graze. He has a big hand. He had it all the way around his head.
Yeah.
Like, and I know he felt that. Face probably still stinging a little bit. Then, I mean, a little mini brawl broke out behind it. Like, after that, with more players involved. Like, it was pretty ugly. Yeah. And it's like, I mean, it doesn't matter whether you feel like, okay, they should not have called the timeout. Yeah. They shouldn't have touched him. Regardless of what anyone shouldn't have done, he shouldn't have smacked him either.
Right.
It's like, bro, that's not how it works. Like, you frustrated. It looked like you were just mad because y'all team was getting their ass whooped.
Exactly.
Y'all lost by 14, and you mad because he called a timeout. Why were you pressing?
Right.
Like, you ain't about to get a 14-pointer. Like, I don't know. Reggie Miller's famous little 8 points in like 8 seconds thing, like that still wouldn't have been enough to bring you back in that game. You had clearly lost. Like, call the press off and let them run the clock out.
Yeah.
Be mad because y'all lost bad.
Right.
Don't come out and do all that. We talking about you from the South Side. Nobody care where you're from. You were a head coach from Michigan. You need to act accordingly.
Yeah, you're pissed about a timeout, so you want to slap somebody up. I can understand the finger in the face didn't help anything. I mean, I think it's like finger in the face, then either swing or spitting. Like, it's usually coming next, but he obviously didn't take that step. But he was already amped up. Like, he was already pissed. So he was like, oh, you're pointing at me? Now we're getting closer. Now I'm being held back. Yeah, it's time. But, I mean, again, you play stupid games, you win stupid prizes. It is what it is. And this is going to be a hit for this team, absolutely. But they have to learn from it. He has to learn how to control himself and just honestly still be grateful that it wasn't as heavy as it could have been. You know, you were surprised about the length, the money, everything. I was too. I really was. So we'll see how it plays out, though. Hard lesson learned for the team. I think I've straightened it out.
Yeah, I figured he would have probably got the rest of the season, period. Like, not just the regular. Like, you can come back next season.
Right. Next March Madness should do that.
Yeah.
Don't tell her that now.
He dodged a serious bullet with that.
Yeah.
And anyone who disagrees, whatever. Like, it's not about all that. You just can't do that.
Right.
Some things you can't get away with. I don't care who was right or wrong. You can't do that.
Right. Highly agree. Anthony, what's up from Jersey? Good to see you. Jamila, of course. Wesley tuning back in. About time, bro. Graham, what's good?
Oh, he's not doing jiu-jitsu.
Yeah, I know, right? Eric, what's happening? Derek Jones, what is happening? Appreciate everybody tuning in tonight. We're about 40 strong right now on Facebook, 32. Still solid, though. Still solid. Y'all call the show, 678-871-9602. There is really no certain time to call. I mean, call whenever. When you hear something you like, you don't like. If you want to hear us talk about something, give the show a ring. For sure.
Absolutely, man. So we're going to jump into the NBA All-Star action. Team LeBron won for the 5th straight time, and the game was actually really exciting. I mean, it was tight all the way through.
Yeah.
I mean, we watched Steph light it up, which subsequently didn't start until the second quarter.
Right.
But when he turned it on, it never went away.
Right.
It was insane. Just put on a clinic from behind the arc. Bron drained the game winner, had a bunch of breakaway dunks. So, Steph or LeBron, who did it better?
This is a golden question of an All-Star weekend that was actually, for the All-Star game, for lack of better words, it was actually pretty exciting. And this surprises me, before we get to the actual question. I expected to potentially, have some other event that kind of came ahead of this, and that's kind of foreshadowing where we're going to get later. But to be such a great game and to have, two great players, ironically, from the West in this instance, go down to this point, I got to say, Steph, with the 16 NBA All-Star game record three-pointers, was that the most threes he's ever hit in a game? Do you know that?
Yeah, I think it has to be, because that would be an NBA record.
Right, yeah, because, just do the math. That's, 39 roughish points, something like that. That's a lot of points, obviously, that he's putting out. Or hell, I think
48.
Right, 48, excuse me. Hell, so even more. Damn near a 50-burger just off of,
straight threes.
Straight threes. I got to say Steph, though. That was just a hell of a performance. Great ball movement by him. And again, whether the game was or wasn't, genuinely competitive, we saw that as the viewer. And I think that's, you can even get deeper than the Steph or LeBron here. We saw that as a viewer from the big stars in the game. Not just the game overall was competitive, but your big stars were making big plays and actually decently key moments in this one. And again, people say the All-Star game isn't what it used to be or has never really meant anything, and I can kind of get behind that. But I do think Steph Curry was better in this instance. Now, Bron was great as well. Don't get me wrong. Awesome game winner. Was doing plenty of things, breaking to the rack. LeBron was being LeBron. Steph was being Steph, and I just think Steph took the cake for this one, for sure.
It's easily Steph. Did you see that man's stat line?
Right.
It was 17 for 30, but he was 16 of 27 from 3.
Right.
He took 27 three-pointers in one game.
Yep.
It was insane. And then he hit at 59%.
Yeah.
That is a ridiculous percentage. And he wasn't just shooting wide open shots. The dude went for 50 points, 5 boards, and I don't even know how the hell he got 2 assists. So that's where he didn't pass. Right. He shot, didn't matter where he got the ball at. He was like, man, I'm shooting from half court, shooting from the side, shooting everywhere, all threes. But, you saw the dude, he hit a turnaround from the corner, asked the fans who made the shot. He was hitting runners. He ran into the paint and then turned around and ran back out, turn around, drained the 3.
Yep.
Hit the one-legged runner three-pointers off the dribble from the logo. Wait a minute. Did you just act like you was going to pull up, take one dribble, and then shoot from way back there and then run back down the floor? Oh, I know that's money.
Right.
He was heat checking himself and was still making them.
Mm-hmm.
He hit the Harden double step back. I guess you can do that in an All-Star game. They won't cause travels.
No, definitely not.
He did hit a couple of those.
Nothing to impede the product fees.
Hitting step backs over big men, hitting wide open. It's like any way that you could make a three-pointer, he made a couple of them that way.
Right.
Like the basket looked like the Pacific Ocean to him out there.
Oh, yeah.
It was ridiculous.
50 points in an All-Star game shooting like that, yeah, that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, man. Like, you heard him on the sideline at one point. He's like, what's the record for the most points scored in an All-Star game?
He's like, let me run it out real quick. I'm coming for you.
It's like, you know what? I'm on fire.
Right.
What's the record?
Yeah.
I'm going to go for it tonight.
That's right. That's absolutely right.
I mean, like, that's the kind of performance that people that are, like, really diehard and big Steph Curry fans, that's what they watch for.
Right.
Like, there's a lot of people that think that he should do that every single night. And when I say a lot of people, I know Pops is like, yeah, he should do that every game. Not going to shoot like that for 82 games.
Right.
It's just not normal. But, yeah, I mean, there's no way we were giving LeBron that award for a bunch of breakaway dunks and a game winner.
Right.
I mean, he had a good game. It was nowhere near Steph's game. He was 2 for 11 from 3. Why the hell did he keep shooting so many threes?
Yeah. I mean, Steph was influencing him. Hell, what can you say?
Yeah, it's like this is what he does.
Right.
Steph ain't out here dunking. You stop shooting threes.
Yep. Yep.
You play your game, please.
Right.
So, man, the dunk contest.
God.
It was underwhelming, as expected. No
Correct.
one really walked into there thinking, oh, I can't wait for the dunk contest. This is going to be the most amazing one ever.
Nah.
It year by year it declines. Nobody's really worried about it. I mean, what can the NBA do to fix what used to be the main event for All-Star Weekend?
This is a good one as well, man, because, and I should have dug into this before, obviously getting on air, but I'm not sure how they pick the dunk contestants. I'm sure they reach out to multiple people. Like we've heard of Aaron Gordon. He went twice and lost, so he probably rejected all the requests coming forward. I mean, we've seen guys. I think LeBron has a couple of times actually turned it down because he wanted to. But I think if we had to honestly get it more fan involved, because I think that's the big thing. Obviously, is when All-Star Weekend comes around, you've got all your stars in one place. You've just got a bunch of people, rallying around in a great city for an awesome weekend with plenty of events. I think you actually put the fans in control to potentially vote on the, dunk contest and people that are obviously going to be in the dunk contest. I mean, we remember the years of Blake Griffin. Obviously, you remember the years of Dwight Howard. That's what people want to see. That's what people want to see coming back. Yes, we've obviously still got crazy dunks every year and props and things of that nature, but eventually you do start to see, some of those things recycled through, which isn't horrible. Obviously, I mean, you can only do so many dunks, on a court before you obviously, expunge all your options. But in terms of, kind of fixing it, because again, the goal, in my opinion, is to get the fans involved. Because again, it's not like everyone's taking it super serious, but we want to have fun. We want to see some awesome highlights. So I think if you can include the fans, I don't know, kind of like you do All-Star game voting. You just go on there and pick your player that you want to. Vote 1,000,000 times for Kevin Durant if you want. I mean, if the fans want to see that, they're obviously going to flock to the TV knowing that the league listens to them. So I say include the fans on a vote and see who your dunk contestants are.
I mean, the one piece of it that I do agree with is the fact that you said there aren't really many dunks left for them to do. I mean, we've pretty much seen everything under the sun,
Right.
and I think we're actually getting so spoiled with what we're used to.
Yep.
That we're not understanding that the degree of difficulty is so ridiculous. That's why you're seeing so many missed attempts.
Yep.
They're trying way more difficult dunks than what we're used to seeing in the past because of the fact that you've already seen all this other stuff.
Yep.
You just come out and do a windmill. It's like, you trying to dunk from the free throw line? Yeah, seen that 100 times.
Right.
It's like how many more dunks can they do?
Yep.
So, I mean, it's not a knock on them. Like, I mean, I didn't enjoy watching it either. I'm not saying that by any shot, but there's not a whole lot that we could even have expected them to do.
Yeah.
I think that the NBA should just go ahead and scrap the dunk contest and implement a superstar king of the court one-on-one battle.
Yeah.
And bring in the big dogs. I mean, I would rather see KD, Steph, James Harden, Kyrie, Giannis, all of them come out there and battle it out in a one-on-one tournament. So they may play games to 3 or to 5. They don't have to be long.
Right.
Just see the best in the world, battle it out, and be like, hey, can't stop me one-on-one. That would be more interesting than the dunk contest at this point.
Yeah.
And it's not because we don't like seeing dunks.
Right.
There's just nothing left for them to do.
Absolutely.
We're going to start bringing trampolines out?
Yeah, in-game dunks are now looking better than all-star game dunks, and I think there's a problem with that because you have all the time, all the creation, all the energy to be. I mean, you literally practice for the dunk contest, right? And I feel like these in-game dunks are better than what we're seeing in the dunk contest today.
They are. I mean, Ja had 2 better dunks during the game than we saw in the dunk contest.
Right. Highly agree.
But if he had done those dunks in the dunk contest, they wouldn't have wowed you either.
Mm-hmm.
They were awesome because they were in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You'd have watched it in the contest and be like, seen that too.
Right.
They can't win for losing. So it's like, man, just ease off on that.
Right.
There's not much more for them to do with it.
Right.
So, I mean, outside of, clearly your favorite, the dunk contest. What was your favorite event of All-Star Weekend?
I got to say my favorite event was still, if it's classified as an event, was honestly the All-Star Game. I think that was the most enticing, just engaging, again, for the fans, most entertaining event of the weekend. Again, you have LeBron James, you have Steph Curry, obviously putting on a show out there, great ball movement. This is one of the first years in a while where, it's a, Pro Bowl weekend or an All-Star weekend for whatever league it might be out there, and it actually felt genuine. Like these players, yes, of course, they might only be going, who knows, 40 to 65, 70%, total capacity because they're not going to hurt themselves in a middle of the season, at least opportunity like that. But it felt genuine. It actually felt competitive. It felt like I was in it to watch it for some reason. Like I was anticipating a great game by the time it got going, and we had an awesome ending, so I couldn't complain anymore. Oddly enough, I didn't think I would sit up here this week and say this, but the All-Star Game was my favorite part of the 2022 NBA All-Star Weekend.
Yeah, I can't be all the way mad at that. The All-Star Game was very entertaining. But just to keep it in the spirit of the actual events, my favorite event was the Skills Challenge, by a mile. Like, that thing was intense. And they changed up the rules. It was very different from what it normally is. They had a 3-round format and then the final. So it was like, all right, you had Team Cavs, which they clearly won the event with Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, and Jared Allen. So then when you actually watch them just battle it out with the rookie team and Team Antetokounmpo. Like, that was pretty dope. They let all the brothers get out there. Granted, it's like, we didn't really think all of them were going to win. Like, they're not the greatest players, but it was fun to watch. Round 1 was team shooting, where they gave, everybody got 30 seconds to shoot from 5 different spots. Like, the Cavs took that one. They were out there lighting it up.
Right.
Then round 2, the team passing, Team Antetokounmpo took it. So, like, man, Giannis and them boys, they came out. They had, in that event, they get 30 seconds to pass the ball into oversized moving targets that are at different distances. So, like, okay, that was new.
Right.
That was almost kind of reminiscent of what they do in the NFL Pro Bowl weekend with the quarterback challenges for precision passing and stuff. So, like, all right, like somebody is doing their job coming up with events.
Right.
But Team Giannis won that. Well, I call them Team Giannis because it's easier to say than their last name. I've said it twice already.
He's like, I'm not doing it again. Can't happen.
Round 3, they did the relay. That was the only event they seemed like they kept from before. Where, they'd run the little dribble zigzags. You make the pass. You had to do a layup, 3-pointer, and run the length of the floor.
Right.
But then the Rooks won that. So, like, all 3 squads won one of the rounds.
Yep.
So, at the end of that, now you had Team Cavs versus Team Antetokounmpo. They had to do a 3-point shootout to determine who was going to face the Rooks in the final.
Right.
And they let Giannis shoot it. I don't know what they were thinking.
Yeah.
So clearly we know how that ended. The Giannis boys were done. Team Cavs went to the final, which was a pretty dope final. They had to shoot a 3-point, well, not even 3-pointer. They had to shoot a half-court shot. Each person just alternate one at a time. They just keep shooting threes until somebody makes one. So it's the fastest team to make one.
Uh-huh.
And it looked like the Rooks had it. They made a 3 in 9.9 seconds.
Right.
It's like, Jesus, that is quick. You've been to a basketball court before and tried to shoot from half court. Right. If you made the first one, you'd be like, I'm done.
Right.
I ain't shoot no more.
Right.
But normally, it takes you quite a few of them before you actually make one.
Right.
And then Team Cavs come up and hit one in 5.5 seconds. It was like, Jesus, these dudes are money from half court.
What you can do, I can do better.
Yeah. So, that was actually pretty exciting and intense, just as, the whole way that they presented this entire event. So I was definitely not mad at that at all. See, overall, All-Star Weekend was pretty good. Just need to fix the dunk contest.
Right.
That's the biggest portion.
Mm-hmm.
But since we have a few minutes before we get to the Kobe break, there is another piece that I want to bring in. Kyrie Irving just might be allowed to play this season. The Brooklyn Nets might actually have a saving grace. If they just sneak into the playoffs as the 8th seed and Kyrie is able to play at home and away, and you finally get Ben Simmons into the lineup with a healthy Kevin Durant, the Nets might have found their saving grace because New York City mayor actually came out and said that they're working on a plan to lift the vaccine mandates. Mm-hmm. And that would be all they need.
Right.
It's a shame it happened right after James Harden left.
Yeah.
Like, we only saw them play 16 games together. They were 13-3 in those 16 games, and now James is gone.
Right. And everybody kept wondering, what is this team completely? Because, I mean, you said it there, 16 games in total, 13 wins. And that is unfortunate. You know, I mean, it's good, obviously, in an aspect for, you know, whether you view Kyrie as an asset or not to Brooklyn, he's still going to be back for them. Whether him and KD get along or not, it's still a key player that this team originally brought in to build around the core. So it will be good for them for sure. But again, you have to wonder, you know, how are KD and Kyrie now with Harden out of the building, not having Kyrie at these home games, you know, having to adjust a lot. What is this Nets team going to be? And that's a major question because we've seen, you know, this NBA season has been kind of surprising, at least in the East. You know, we can at least say that in the East, it has been shocking. And now that they are, you know, trying to work their way back up, now you get cleared, but your other essential piece is already out the door. It is very, I mean, you're going to keep your eyes on it for sure. You know, you are going to continue to wonder, can these guys mesh? Does that feed more into Durant's legacy? You know, Kyrie's problems per se. I mean, it's a lot to look at.
Oh, absolutely. But I mean, I'm definitely like, I'm hoping that they do it so we can get a chance to see this Brooklyn Nets team in action. So, I mean, it really sucks that he's not been able to play just off of technicality. I mean, it's actually kind of ridiculous. I mean, however you feel about the stance that he took is how you feel about the stance that he took. But the fact that he can't play home games, but other players that aren't vaccinated can because they don't live there that's just stupid.
Yeah.
Like, if they can't, they can't. But why can some can and some can't?
Right. Agreed there totally.
Yeah, just pure ridiculousness. So, I mean, there's no timetable for how long it will take for them to do that. I mean, I know they said they just plan to phase the vaccine mandate out. So, I mean, that could push clear off past the playoffs. It's just an idea.
Yeah.
I mean, between that and we don't know how long Ben Simmons is going to wait to come back.
Yeah, it's going to be fun to see Ben Simmons, Kyrie Irving, and, well, hell, if they're on the floor at the same time, but also Kevin Durant. That's going to be interesting to see because, you know, I heard on the way in people were talking about, oh, is it KD? Is it Harden? You know, now people are saying the Ben Simmons mental issues and the, you know, being afraid of the court was solely related to Philadelphia. So it's a lot going on in the Brooklyn franchise right now. And it's, again, you just have to sit back, watch, take it in and see what it unfolds out to, honestly.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, I really hope that they actually get it together. I mean, it's not like I'm rooting for the Nets, but I want to see all the best players playing.
Yeah.
The playoffs aren't as good when the best players aren't in it.
That's absolutely right.
Yeah, so
absolutely right.
Hopefully this happens sooner than later.
Yep. I'd be happy for it.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, hell, here we go.
He was picking up the phone. He's like, where is it? What is happening?
Yeah, like I didn't want to move on.
He's like, I can't
get cut off.
I can't go into another topic and we roll over 824. No. Ladies and gentlemen, you already know 824 on Wednesday. Petty Sports 3, 2, 1. Kobe. R.I.P. to the Mamba. Bell, over to you, my friend.
Yes, sir, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate that, Adam. You are tuned in to Petty Sports Wednesday night edition like every week, 8 o'clock sharp. All brought to you by Post 880 Radio, featuring Adam Lewis and Famous Facts Fees. You know what I'm saying? Appreciate you guys tuning in. See everybody in the chat room. What's up, Pimpin' Ken? I see you out there, Graham, Christopher, Wesley. Oh, Wesley in the house early tonight. All right, then. That's what's good. Derek, Eric, we see you, man. Share the show. Jamila, share the show, everybody. Daryl, Anthony, thank you so much for tuning in like always. You can go to your different podcast platforms of preference and download or listen to Petty Sports. Just type in Petty Sports on Apple, Google, Spotify, iHeart, and you know what I'm saying? Listen to the guys in your car on your way to work, or you want to share it with some people on the road while you riding along. Hey, do that. Thank you once again. You could have been anywhere else in the world, but you're right here with the guys at the table making it do what it do. You know what I'm saying? Go to KINGZBroadcasting.com. Spend some money. Got plenty of merch over there. You know what I'm saying? Cups, tumblers, T-shirts, Petty Sports shirts, hoodies, all that kind of good stuff, man. So they make wonderful gifts. And we also have a big donate button at the bottom of the home page where you can donate. and help us continue to bring forth this great content every week. Like always, man, you can call in at 678-871-9602, 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight and express your opinions and, you know what I'm saying, let the guys go back and forth with you on it, you know what I'm saying? So we're looking forward to hearing from you tonight, all right? Go to the YouTube page at Petty Sports, subscribe, hit the notification bell, so anytime the show is hot, you will be notified and you can tune in right away. Same thing on the Book of Face, Fedbook, Twitch, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. Type in Petty Sports. We all over the place. You know what I'm saying? So if you ain't looking, you won't see us. But we all over, man. You know what I'm saying? So help us help you help us, all right? You know what I mean? So do us that big solid like always. And thank you so much. Like, continue to support black business. Continue to support black business. Support black businesses. Because we do. Happy Black Future Month. ATL, hope.
Yes, sir. You are listening to Petty Sports, the podcast. We are going to stick with NBA action. This Sunday night at halftime of the All-Star game, the NBA, they honored their top 75 players at halftime. They had all the legends out on the court all at one time. Pretty awesome experience. Mm-hmm. And ESPN took the liberty of actually ranking them. So you know we got to dive into that. Just as a quick piece right at the top, Jordan 1, LeBron 2, Kareem 3. That's the top 3 spots on the ESPN list. I'm sure we're going to hear from y'all weighing in on this one. There's no way everyone agrees. I don't agree. And I know he don't agree with me.
Hell no.
So now, what changes would you make to this list?
Oh, man, I mean, I think you said we could talk about this list for the entire show, but I think we only got up until 8:45 here, so we'll roll along with this question here. What changes would I make to the NBA 75 list? Well, for starters, I do think that Anthony Davis being on here is a little bit of a stretch for me. I understand that he did win a finals with LeBron, and everybody did have the same advantage in the COVID year for the Mickey Mouse ring, whatever y'all want to call it. But... Well, I mean, that's what people say, man. I mean, look, I hate it for LeBron because no matter what happens, it was kind of like with who we just talking about Hall of Fame last week? Matthew Stafford. Like, nobody asked for that comparison, but it's still coming up anyways. Either way, though, it is what it ain't. Anthony Davis being on there was kind of a little bit of a shock for me. All respect to Carmelo Anthony, but I didn't feel like he was deserving to be on this list as well. I understand Carmelo at one point in the NBA was maybe the best scorer and without question a top 5 player in the league, but that was never completely sustainable for him. I love the Denver days. I love the Knicks days. Don't get me wrong, okay? And I love how he has been, trying to have these key roles throughout these teams in the NBA. But if, I mean, you just go look at the top 75 list, whether you agree with everyone that's in the list or not, throw the ranking out. I don't know if I can justify Carmelo Anthony being top 75 on this list. James Harden, another one, extremely talented player. Potentially, I don't know, some people say top 7 to 10 offensive player with the ball in his hands all time. Okay, I won't argue with you on that because he's got a great step back, can obviously shoot a great ball, but I mean, even thinking about the top 7, 10 to, offensive player, that is a little bit of a reach potentially, but you're talking about top 75 all time. That's just a lot for me. Damian Lillard was at number 75. And again, this list was very, very tedious. I understand Dame is very clutch. Maybe the closest to the 3-point shooting in terms of Steph and Clay that we're seeing in the NBA today, Trae Young, obviously. Again, a clutch player, no doubt about that, has been riding with, almost said Brooklyn, with Portland for a very long time. But Dame, Anthony Davis, Carmelo, James Harden, those were just, I don't know, those didn't really sit right with me. And we're going to get even deeper into the list. But yeah, those few there were definitely a little shocking for me, for sure.
Yeah, it's just a piece of that that's just very disrespectful.
Let's go. I'm going to
skip into the middle of mine just to address yours.
There we go.
James Harden at number 50 is ridiculous. He should be like somewhere between 20 to 30.
Oh, boy.
You're saying he doesn't deserve to be on the top 75 list at all.
Yeah.
What the hell else does he have to do?
Yeah.
He doesn't have a championship. Half the guys on that list ain't got no championship.
Of course. Yeah, we know that with the NBA.
Do those guys have MVP, scoring titles? Do they have they gone on scoring tears like James Harden?
Yeah.
Like, let's not shortchange James Harden's career at all.
I'm just going to shortchange the postseason shrinkage is all. That's where I have an issue with it. I know he's talented for sure.
There's other people up there that have the same issue. They never won.
Yeah.
it's not like he lost in the first round every time. We're talking about him losing in the Western Conference Finals and dumping on him. You can dump on him all you want to if we start talking about greatest of all time or even greatest positionally. But we're talking about top 75. He absolutely belongs on this list and very high on it. But back to the top. Kobe needs to move from 10 to 2.
Yeah.
I want him all the way up to 2.
Yep.
I'm only bumping Bron down one slot. I'll keep him at 3. I mean, I might have wanted to take him to 4 because, Kareem really actually should be at the top of the list. If we get to arguing this, we could put Kareem at 1 and bump Kobe to 3 and Bron to 4, and I wouldn't be mad at that either.
Right.
So, those people need to move. Hakeem Olajuwon, he's outside of the top 10.
Yeah.
Who the hell did this? I don't care that he's 13. He needs to be in the top 10. I don't care where in the top 10. He needs to be in the top 10. There are not 10 NBA players better than Hakeem Olajuwon. What? It's insane. Shaq needs to move up one spot. He's at 11. He should be 10.
Yep.
Right up 1. And since we're moving people, Shaq moves up. Oscar Robertson needs to come out of the top 10. Oscar Robertson out. Tim Duncan out. Give me Hakeem in this top 10. Things need to change.
Yeah.
It's not a slight to any of them, but they're not top 10 players.
Yeah.
I don't understand that. I'm going to dig all the way into it on this next piece. Who is your biggest surprise of the list?
I think my biggest surprise, and you kind of, these first 2 questions with the list kind of tie into each other. What changes would you make? What was the biggest surprise? I thought that Pistol Pete and Clyde Drexler felt low, kind of in the mid-50s there. What definitely blew my mind the most about this list is that Chris Paul is ahead of Dwayne Wade. I get it. It's by 1 slot. But how do the 2 careers there match up even remotely close? Chris Paul was never a top 5 player overall in the league. Dwayne Wade was. Dwayne Wade has multiple titles. Chris Paul has none. He has 1 finals run. I understand that, obviously, Chris Paul is one of the best point guards we've ever seen. Maybe top 10, 15 all-time point guards. We've heard the conversations with Chris Paul. But then you've also got the people like Fees out there as well that don't believe, they're not behind the Chris Paul resume. When you start to dig through some of his career, look at the talent he's been around. Everybody was giving the man a ring when he obviously went to play Giannis, and he fell short yet again. I think that was my biggest surprise, is the fact that Chris Paul was above Dwayne Wade. Again, Kobe at number 10 was an absolute shocker to me. You and I agree eye to eye on that. I think Kobe is number 2 at the very least, number 3 on an all-time NBA list. But yeah, I was definitely blown away. And again, just kind of going back to that Carmelo, and it's because it's kind of like when you look at things in a vacuum, or, with not legacy, but essentially when you look into a pocket of someone's career and you try to say that, that 5 to 7 years was his really whole 20-year stretch. No, it wasn't. And I feel like that's what some of this list is here, is going off the big moments with the Anthony Davis. Like, I'd say out of Dame, AD, Melo, and Harden, Dame deserves to be up there the most, along with James Harden. I respect AD, and I respect, obviously, Carmelo. But again, tough decisions for me. But biggest surprise ranking, definitely. Back to that, Chris Paul above Dwayne Wade was mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, above Dwayne Wade, definitely, but he absolutely deserves to be up there.
I'm
not a fan of him at all, but that's not the... I could not be a fan of you and still respect that you were a beast.
Yeah, he's still top 75, but God, better than D Wade? Like, come on.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, again, who does this? Can we pull the receipts on you? Like, come on, man.
Oh, God.
Jeez.
Jody, don't take me back down this rabbit hole. You talking about Tim Duncan, top 10, best power forward ever. He's not a power forward. Tim Duncan is a damn center, so cut it out.
Hey, hey, you right now, go to the YouTube page. We literally did a top 5? Top 5 power forwards of all time right after the Bucks won the finals. Absolutely great. So, I mean, it's like 20 minutes long. If you're really looking to dig in, go check that out, man.
He's a center.
Yeah.
So
I think he played, 17 of his 20 seasons, you said?
I'm not entertaining that. It wasn't quite that many. It was a little over 50% of his seasons he was a center, though.
Yeah.
He's not a power forward.
No.
So I'm not entertaining that. But my biggest surprise was Oscar Robertson. Not that he was on the list, that he's top 10.
Yeah.
I've never in life heard anyone give a top 10 NBA list and put Oscar Robertson on it.
Lordy.
Like, how? What are we talking about? Like, no, we're not shading it at all. He's the king of the triple-double. He's known for it. They got him ranked at number 9. Just short of 26 points per game, 7.5 rebounds, 9.5 assists. Crazy numbers. 12 All-Stars, 1 MVP, 11-time All-NBA, 6-time assist leader, 1 title.
Yeah.
Just over 1,000 games played, 1,040. So let me give you some more numbers. We've got another guy that's averaging 23 points a game, 7.5 assists per game, and 7.5 rebounds and 8.5 assists per game for a career. 9 All-Stars, 1 MVP, 9 All-NBAs, 3-time assist leader, 2-time scoring champ, and played 1,000 games. Who is this second player? Oh, Russell Westbrook. More triple-doubles. Is that not what Oscar Robertson is known for?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that Russell Westbrook should be in the top 10 because Oscar Robertson shouldn't be in the top 10.
Yeah.
Russ is at 68 and Oscar's at 9.
Yeah.
They damn near have the same career outside of the 1 title. Is 1 title worth 60 spots?
Uh-huh.
Like, that's insane.
To the 4 letters it is.
I'm not even saying Russ should be ahead of Oscar. They should be closer.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere in the middle of this list they should meet.
Yeah.
Like maybe in the 30s or 40s.
Right, yeah.
They should both, like Russ should be higher, Oscar should be lower.
Yeah.
Like that is insane. Like how are you giving the credit that like he's the king of the triple-double until Russ took over? It's like, but Russ is at the bottom, like you barely let him in. Like,
Yeah.
what is it exactly that you're holding against him? Because you're giving him credit for all of it.
Mm-hmm.
He ain't ever lead the league in scoring. Russ did that a couple times. It's like, Jesus. Like, y'all got to be at least objective with this list.
Yeah.
You're just giving him credit for being great and because he was an all-time great and he's older?
Right. Pockets of the career, man. I'm telling you. People like to use legacy. And of course, yes, you count legacy into a justification of when you do an all-time list. But again, if it's in a concentrated area, that's where it gets tough for me. Dwight says, Banks, excuse me, had the NBA not blocked the trade of Chris Paul to the Lakers, you wouldn't say that. So question for you, Banks. Are you essentially saying in that statement that if Chris Paul takes, I guess, Nash or Westbrook spot, that you think that they're going to win a title with LeBron and AD? Because the health of the two players obviously was still an issue. But does 1 title justify that enough for you to put Chris Paul close to Dwayne Wade? Hell no. Not for me. For me, it's one simple thing. Chris Paul was never a top 10 player in the NBA. Dwayne Wade was consistently top 5 to 7 for 85 to 90% of his career. And there's no doubt about that. We saw what Dwayne Wade was, especially when he paired up with LeBron. So I just think that's a little outlandish.
No, he was coming for me on that. He's saying that I wouldn't dislike Chris Paul if he had come to the Lakers.
Got me on a whole
back when we got Nash.
directed at me. Damn it.
That's what it was.
Let me calm down there. Let me get off
I
my
mean,
mind.
I don't understand how you even come with that logic, though. He's saying that if he had been a Laker, then I would have liked him. LeBron's a Laker. I'm still not a fan.
Right.
I mean, case in point, close.
Feast tells me a couple times a month, I can't stand LeBron, bro. I cannot stand him. He's not a hater. He just doesn't like LeBron James. Case in point.
I only bumped him down to 3. I put Kobe one slot up. I didn't say LeBron don't deserve to be in the top 10. He's absolutely one of the 3 to 4 best players we've ever seen.
Right.
I'm not a fan.
Yeah.
Like, 2 things can be true. I don't have to like him. I can respect it.
I love that you say 2 things can be true because I always tell some of my folks, right? So, like, just because I understand you doesn't mean I agree with you. Like, if I turn around and smack you in the face and then G jumps up and smacks me in the face, doesn't mean that I necessarily agree, but I understand why you did it. And that's the case in point here. Like, just because, again, go back to what you said, just because we might have a difference here doesn't mean that it can't be that situation. So, yeah, man, I definitely know what you're alluding to there.
Yeah, man. So before we leave this topic, do you think they should consider just going to greats of the eras instead of all-time lists?
Yeah, I think that would be great. Like, if you separated it by, I don't know, 15, 20 years, decades rather, or eras, however you want to define those eras. I think you would have to get a little more specific in some of those aspects because then people would be like, oh, well, you're only measuring from 75 to 86, but from 87 to 92, like, you're going to have those guys out there, of course. But I agree with you. I think that would be a good idea because, again, we see it in I mean, every sport has changed just from the last 5 years, let alone the last 20, 30, 40 that it's been around, especially the NBA, especially the NFL. So I do think that bringing eras into an argument, because we always have that, right? People are always like, oh, well, it's different eras and you can't compare this and that and the third. Totally understand that, right? But if we were to, I guess, have some of these bigger people break it down in terms of, okay, this is the one era we're talking about. This is the next one. You can't cross these two careers over here because it's just going to create a lot of conflict for the argument. I can get down with that. I think I could agree. Multiple eras would be a good standpoint for a discussion like this.
Yeah, man, I think it would have been very easy for them to format. Since they wanted to do 75-year anniversary, they could have done 3 25-player clusters of 25 years each.
Yep.
They gone 1947 to 1971. Give me the top 25 players there. Then you go 1972 to 1997. Give me the top 25 there. Then give me 1998 to current. Give me those top 25.
I like that.
They could have bunched them together that way. There are probably a few players that would not have made the list because of the way it was grouped, because there's probably not as many from 47 to 71 that are on this list as the 98 to current.
Right.
But you're honoring the 75-year anniversary.
Right.
I mean, as you keep going forward, it'll change up. If you want to do 80 years, then you can do 4 20-year clusters. When you get to the 100, do 4 25-year clusters. But make it make more sense.
Yeah. Please, for the love of God, make it make more sense with some of these rankings.
This entire 75 is like a lot of them seem like they were paying so much homage to the older players. It's like, bro, he's not better.
Right.
Like they were good in their era, but come on, man.
Right.
I mean, there's some of the disrespect on the list is just outlandish.
Yeah, it's absolutely insane. It's an insult. Honestly, I think it's an insult to people like you and I that obviously get up here and put so much work into, breaking down some of these lists and pull our hair out and grind our teeth over these top 10 lists that we'll do on the show. And it's like, oh, we're just going to, what we're going to do? We're just going to throw it into one of those randomizers. I think it's I don't know what the website is. You can type it in. It comes with a pie chart. You can just type all your names. And that's literally what they did for the NBA 75 list. We're just going to shuffle it in whatever list it spits out. Luckily, it's LeBron, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, and MJ at 1, 2, or 3. But besides that, it's a landslide. It's an avalanche. So, yeah, it's doesn't really surprise me because it's ESPN. All respect for the company. They're obviously extremely successful, but it doesn't surprise me the fact that they would throw out a list this atrocious.
I mean, it had to be them. You see, the NBA didn't do that.
He said it had to be them. Damn.
The NBA wouldn't dare dip their toe in ranking them. They just named them.
Right. They said, hey, look, here's the top 75. We're not even going to put LeBron or MJ or Kobe up here. We're going to put them somewhere in here so you don't think we're ranking them. The NBA played it very well. ESPN was like, nah, we're going to put our head on a guillotine, and this is what it is. And it obviously did not go over well.
Yeah, man. DB said, what about an overlap in eras? I mean, hey, it is what it is. You played more in one era than the other.
Yeah.
I mean, one of them you're going to fit into. I mean, clearly Jordan would have been in that third era, in the second era, from 72 to 97. He won a championship in 98, but that was just one. He got 5 in the other era, so he's going in that era.
Yeah.
It's it's not that difficult. There are a few guys who really do cross the eras, but for the most part, the people who cross could fit into any of them.
Yeah. See, and then you got guys like Banks. Well, what about the overlapping? See, I'm just telling you, when you're eras, okay, what defines you being in an era? Was it the time that you only played, or was it the time that you were dominant? You know what I mean? You're just going to have so much thrown into it. But I agree,
eras
it's
are
not
easier
as
to define than just the top 75, which ended up being 76.
Yeah.
It's you couldn't even lock it down to 75.
Right. Oh, we had to go one extra to name a player that not a lot have heard of. But by the way, this whole list up front, still going to be pretty bad.
And now we got Clay wearing number 77 shooting 3-pointers.
Oh, jeez. Jeez.
So, man, when we come back off this quick sponsorship break, we're going to come back and talk about the new, what is he? He's not even the defensive coordinator. The senior defensive assistant for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Y'all keep this thing locked. Mike Banks.
Mike Banks. Mike Bell.
I was reading what he kept writing. Mike Beasley, take us away.
Yeah, man. Appreciate it. Famous Facts Feeds, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for tuning in tonight. You are tuned in to Petty Sports Wednesday night edition with Adam Lewis. Famous Facts Feeds at the table like always at 8 p.m. every Wednesday night. We appreciate you tuning in like always. Of course, all of this is brought to you by Pulse 880 Radio. It's a 24/7 internet radio station. Go over and support it. All types of music over there, man. They got hip-hop, jazz, gospel, like R&B, urban, name it, we got it. You know what I'm saying? A little soft rock in there from time to time. So check them out. If you like trap music, it's there. So support Pulse 880 Radio, all right? And everybody in the chat room, y'all getting busy over there. We appreciate the interaction. Everybody go to your podcast platform of preference and download and listen to Petty Sports over there. Petty Sports with a Z. You know what I'm saying? Show love. Subscribe to this YouTube page. Hit the notification bell. And everybody on the Book of Face, thank you so much for the memberships and the follows. The numbers are really going up. We had 44,000.
45,000 strong.
Yeah, man. So
on the Fed book.
Thanks to you guys. We really appreciate it. You know what I'm saying? So share the show with your friends, neighbors, and co-workers. Call your friends, neighbors, and co-workers and let them know, you know what I'm saying? It's a really bomb-ass sports show that comes on every Wednesday with two of the greatest local sports show hosts in the biz, all right? You know what I'm saying? So big up Petty Sports with your peeps so, the numbers can keep going, all right? Go to YouTube, Book of Face, Instagram, TikTok, Twitch, Twitter. Subscribe, follow, like. And we appreciate it. And like always, call in at 678-871-9602. 678-871-9602. That's how you can be a part of the show tonight. We love to hear from you guys. And, hey, happy Black History Future Month. ATL, ho.
Yes, sir. You are listening to Petty Sports, the podcast. We jumping right in to former Miami Dolphins head coach Brian Flores. He's been hired as the Pittsburgh Steelers senior defensive assistant and linebackers coach. I mean, that's a hell of a demotion from head coach.
Couldn't not even the DC, man.
Not even a coordinator. I don't know what this position actually is.
Senior defensive assistant, sir.
He's a liaison to the defense.
Hey, so this is what they said. Okay, this is what they said. Cool.
Yeah. So now, what impact will this ongoing lawsuit with the NFL actually have on Pittsburgh this season?
That is going to be a very enticing situation for this franchise because if there's anything that we've seen in the NFL, it's when you start to make a lot of noise in the offseason or make that unnecessary commotion within your franchise that is not needed when you're trying to make a push. And clearly, the Steelers a couple seasons back, 11-0, totally feeling great. They obviously had Super Bowl aspirations. So when you bring in a guy like Flores, who obviously has a lot on his back, we saw it with the Cowboys a few seasons ago. We saw it with the Raiders last year with a lot of commotion. And are the Steelers going to be one of those teams to where it's like, okay, yes, you could be, let's say, I don't know, at one point in the season, 8-3, right? But if you've got some of that energy on your side, I feel like that eventually comes to the forefront, especially when you don't need it to. And I don't want that to happen for a team like Pittsburgh, with Brian Flores being in an ongoing lawsuit, but it's kind of inevitable, and it's not that Flores is going to be bad. It's not that, this team is going to necessarily fall apart, but we've seen it time and time again. And if there's one thing that always stays consistent in the NFL, especially, is when you make a lot of noise and you have a lot of speculation around a certain aspect of your team, that is eventually going to shine forward. And again, I'm not saying that Flores himself is going to make a call or a decision or a remark or anything that's going to be the downfall of this team, but we've seen it time and time again. And Pittsburgh, obviously, again, they've been a team that's wanting to get to the bowl. Obviously, the offense has struggled a good bit, so you would like to have seen them bring in another piece of the team that would definitely supplement for them. But either way, I do think it will have a fairly strong impact on this team, but hopefully they can overcome it so it's not like a Raiders situation, not like a Cowboys situation, that we've seen in the past.
Yeah, just strictly from the publicity side of it, I don't think it's a good move for Pittsburgh.
Right.
We like to see Brian Flores get hired, which he definitely should have gotten a head coaching job. For him to be a senior defensive assistant is pretty disrespectful to the pedigree and the resume that he actually has. But given this lawsuit, it's like Pittsburgh is kind of fresh off of trying to shake off the unnecessary distractions between they had Antonio Brown in the locker room going live all the time, and then Juju Smith bringing all this light into everything. They finally they got AB out. Juju has stopped the nonsense, and subsequently his play tailored off right along with it. But now every single thing you do, they're going to be asking all the players, all the coaches, like, so what do you think about the Brian Flores situation? Like, how do you feel about him coming after the NFL? Like, they're going to be interviewing and asking everybody questions that have nothing to do with them or the team, just for the simple fact that he's there. They're going to make it a spotlight. Every interview, every press conference, like before, after the games will be getting broken down and still alluding to his current lawsuit with the NFL. I mean, X's and O's wise, I think it's a great hire. I mean, he absolutely could be an asset to that defense, which was already really good.
Yep.
So, I mean, he's a great hire. It's just the mere fact that he has way too much surrounding him. I mean, I hope that they're able to swallow it, because Pittsburgh was one of the teams that was not under the radar for this stuff that he's actually filing a lawsuit for.
Yep.
Pittsburgh's the only one that actually has a black head coach. Miss me with Miami. They're the only one.
Miss me with Miami. You crazy selfies.
I'm just saying, they're the only one.
Yeah.
They're the only team that did not have to do that.
Right.
So, man, outside of all of the outside noise, will the Steelers improve this season after this move?
I think yes, but not by, the stretch that probably the fans or anybody affiliated with the franchise is wanting to. Because, again, I don't know, the past 20, 30 years, the Steelers have, the Steel Curtain, plenty of the Super Bowl runs. We've seen it even in recent seasons. Like, the Pittsburgh Steelers have consistently been a defensive pedigree that is elite in the NFL. There's no question about that. So, of course, bringing in a guy like Brian Flores, who is clearly good enough to turn it around in a failing franchise like Miami, who is clearly poorly owned, and then to bring him over with already being a defensive mind in Miami, and you're just literally adding to that culture of Pittsburgh, right? So we know that's going to be a plus there. But again, Pittsburgh continues to struggle at the on the offensive side of the ball. I understand that Big Ben's obviously out of there, right? You got Najee Harris, you got Claypool, you got Juju, you got plenty of guys. Even Freiermuth at the tight end, Pat Freiermuth at the tight end position. He was some sort of benefit for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and I think the way they could have improved more was just reaching more into that offensive spectrum. Now, again, we still have a whole NFL offseason to go. So before anybody hops in the comments and says this, that, and the third about, oh, we're not done, and look at the move we're about to make, I understand that, right? Okay, the Jaguars can make 59 different moves in the offseason, okay, and be a predator, right? It's all about what actually happens in this offseason. So basing off this one move, they will improve, but I don't think it's going to be enough to truly make them is it going to be a difference in the AFC? Considering, Baltimore could potentially be back after being healthy. Cincinnati's now here to play. If the Chargers finally get it together, I could keep going with these AFC teams. I don't think it made them stronger in the championship run, but of course defensively it did. No doubt about that. It's B-Flow, right? We know who he is.
Yeah, only defensively can this even be judged. And I see Jamila just corrected me.
Here she comes.
Lovie Smith. No, Lovie is with the Texans. My bad.
I was curious. I was like, so I know they got rid of Coley. I was like, wasn't it somebody else? But yes, Lovie Smith.
Yeah. I just completely forgot about Lovie.
He's a duck of you, Miami.
I just completely forgot about Lovie because, is that other guy. I'm like, whatever.
Yeah,
don't forget the guy in Miami. He's a black guy.
Hell no. Bell over there tuned it out, right? Who? Oh, okay.
No, we didn't talk about that guy. But, man, last season, Pitt was 9-7-1, which, that was actually shocking that they came out with a winning record.
Yeah.
But they were 24th in total defense. That is not good by any stretch. I don't care how you're judging it. They were 9th against the pass, but last in the league against the rush.
Are you serious?
Dead last in total rushing defense. Everyone had their way running the football against the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Oh, my God. I didn't know it was that bad.
It's completely flipped. It wasn't like that before. But
yeah.
Under Brian Flores, Miami was 15th in total defense, 16th against the pass, and 14th against the rush. He can come in and instantly implement some type of strategies and schemes to really make an impact on his defense. You had the defensive player of the year who tied the sack record, and y'all were last in rushing. They're like, oh, he's getting sacks. Just run. Run the ball straight up the middle.
Yeah.
They can't stop that. So it's like he comes in with a whole lot of knowledge.
Right.
So, I mean, outside of even what he did in Miami, before he got to Miami, he was the defensive coordinator for New England.
Right.
In that 2018 season, before he got the job with Miami, when he was a defensive coordinator, he only went into the playoffs, shut down the 6th-ranked offense in the league, which was the Chargers, then the 1st-ranked offense in the league, which was the Chiefs for the first half, shut them out.
Yep.
And then turned around in the Super Bowl and shut down the 2nd-ranked offense in the league. And New England was 3rd.
The Rams, correct?
Yeah, so it's like they shut down all the best offenses in the NFL en route to that Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, defensive improvement with Brian Flores in that room with his hands on the defense. He may not be the coordinator, but he's going to be the guy to go to.
Yeah. Graham with a great comment. Flores could take over for Tomlin eventually. Didn't even think that would be a little bit of illusion there. Kind of a buffer, put him into this little weird position, right? And then, boom, we'll move him up in a couple years.
Unless Tomlin only plans to coach for 2 more years, that would be extremely ridiculous and disrespectful for Brian Flores to stay in Pittsburgh long enough to take over for Mike Tomlin.
And tough as well for just Flores in general, because, he's going to get calls for head coaching, right? He's probably already had calls for head coaching, but I think with him accepting this position, he might kind of know the area that he's in. So, again, to kind of agree with what you said there, 2 to 3 seasons from now, if not already, he's going to be getting head coaching calls like, come on, New Orleans, let's go.
That would be worse than Eric Beatty not having a head coaching job.
Right. Literally, because B-Flow is proven.
He's had success as a head coach.
Yep.
Like, there's no way he's sitting behind Tomlin long enough for that.
Right.
Like that I would be upset.
Yeah. That would be nuts. Like, which one's more disrespectful? Him sitting as the senior defensive assistant for 3 years or getting fired from Miami in the first place? You tell me.
Yeah, purely ridiculous. So, one sidebar question of it. Do you think that Pittsburgh made this hire just to satisfy some, like, just to kind of just clear some of the smoke with the whole Brian Flores situation?
No. Because I don't really see the benefit for either team. I totally understand Mike Tomlin is, probably top 3, top 5 coach in the NFL, despite the record we've seen what he's been able to do season in and season out. So, of course, it adds to, again, the Steelers' pedigree, the defensive culture, this, that, and the third. I guess that's where the benefit, but referring to the specific question of, is it kind of, dumbing down or subsiding, some of that, some of that lawsuit and, black coaching hiring kind of thing. I don't really think that they would have made a move for that because, again, if you've already got, the next biggest step, let me walk back a little bit. If you've already got a black head coach, the next biggest step would be a black owner, black GM, things of that nature. You're talking about a senior defensive assistant. Like, you're not even talking about the full DC, right? You're not even talking about a special teams coach, right? A senior defensive assistant / linebackers coach. And who knows, like, he could get promoted within the next, I don't know, or the first 8 to 10 weeks in the NFL season. Now, that would be great, right up to the DC position. But in terms of kind of subsiding some of what's going on with the black coaching in the league, I just don't see the personal benefit for Pittsburgh, especially at this point in the franchise.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's Pittsburgh trying to pacify that per se. I think Pittsburgh is just so happens to be the spot where they give everyone a chance.
Right.
Pittsburgh brought in Mike Vick.
No doubt about that.
They gave Dobson a chance. I mean, I don't know how the hell they had him. And they got Dwayne Haskins out there. Why he's got a job is beyond me. But they're he has some type of a personal tie to Mike Tomlin. Now they bring in Brian Flores. It's like most of these guys, they did not need them. It's like he just was like, hey, I'm going to give you a shot. And it really is just that. I mean, I don't know if it's just a Tomlin thing or what they're doing, but that just seems to be a place where it's really like it's a safe space. So I can't be mad at that. I mean, Pittsburgh is going to bring in every black player and coach that is available to make sure that they get a shot. And for that, I commend them. But they don't need all the people that they bring in.
Yeah. Kobe, that's crazy on YouTube talking about he will not and did not get legit head coach calls. That's absolutely nuts to me because you can't tell me that there's at least, at the bare minimum, 3 to 5 teams in the NFL, whether they have a great head coach or not, would at least entertain Brian Flores coming into the franchise. So that I can't get down with. Again, we know what Flores is. He obviously turned Miami around. It's nuts. He's not the head coach of the Dolphins right now, right? But I have to believe. I mean, come on now. So many teams are desperate. Oh, you're in a 9-figure lawsuit with the NFL. Okay, cool. Come coach for us. We're fine with that. Like some teams just clearly don't care. So I don't believe that he hasn't got the opportunity to coach even after the lawsuit. People don't just neglect head coaching talent like that, especially how it's hard to come by coaches. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of head coaches are whiffs. Like let's think about the recent head coaching hires, right? Outside of like McDermott, McVay, and I guess like Stefanski. Obviously, there's a couple more you could throw in there, but there's more busts than there are successions in the NFL for at least new head coaching hires. So a little bit of a testament to that there.
Given the lawsuit, I don't think there's pretty much anybody who's going to give it a chance now.
No.
Had he not done that, he probably would have a job now, which is, I mean, it's extreme speculation, but that's all you're really left to think. Because they're not bringing him in just because of what he's doing. But, I mean, we could talk about that till we're blue in the face. We have reached the top of the hour. Mike Beasley is going to take us away one more time. When we come back, we got a fresh new slate of topics. We're going to break down the AFC North, which we've been talking about. It's about to get heated. Jamila, get ready, because we're coming for your Steelers. Mike Beasley, take it away.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, like always, you're tuned in to Wednesday night Petty Sports Edition, all brought to you by Post 880 Radio. You're watching Famous Facts Fees, and Adam Lewis bring you the latest and greatest in sports news, like always, okay? Everybody in the chat room, we really appreciate you tuning in, listening, and sharing the show. Call in 678-871-9602, 678-871-9602. We are, like he said, at the top of the hour. We have like officially 58 minutes left in the show for you to get in where you fit in, all right? You know what I'm saying? So subscribe to the page on YouTube, Book of Face, Twitch, Twitter, Twitch, all that. Go to Instagram, type in Petty Sports, join the page, follow, share, and also go to your different podcast platforms of preference: iHeart, Google, Spotify. We all over the place, man. Like I said earlier, we greatly appreciate your support and everybody that's been following us and sticking with us throughout. So big shouts out to you guys, and support black business, support black businesses. It's called We Do. Happy Black Future History Month. ATL Hope.
You already know what time it is, ladies and gentlemen. We are at the top of the hour for Petty Sports Wednesday night. You know, we start every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Hey, look, we've had no callers, but we got a lot of juicy topics that are on the slate. So please call in. Y'all been doing great in the chat. 678-871-9602. Don't be afraid to give a call in. Don't be afraid to catch us on social media, because it's not about where you catch your content. It's really about where Petty Sports is at. Be sure to check out Pulse 880 Radio and KINGZ Broadcasting Studios if you're looking for an awesome studio to invest in with your broadcasting career. Hit up Gary King, hit up Mike Bell. They would love to help you out. All right, Fees. So we're going to jump into what got a lot of people pissed off or loving Petty Sports at the moment, and it's going to be the so, you know, we started out with expectations versus reality for the preseason, but now for the postseason, we're just going to do a little bit of a wrap up, revisit some preseason predictions, hand out a grade for them, and tell you what they absolutely need the most. We're going to start with the AFC North here. Respect to the Super Bowl representative from the AFC. Fees, talk to me about Cincinnati. Tell me what you think about them for the postseason.
Well, man, just getting into what we started off with. When we came into the preseason, we did a video on them, expectations versus reality. I had the Cincinnati Bengals at 7-10. They finished at 10-7. I had them completely flip-flop. Was definitely, I mean, no one saw Joe Burrow coming like this. Did not think Jamar Chase would take the league by storm the way he did.
Yeah.
To me, my prediction I felt like was sound. Clearly, it was not. But it is what it is. I mean, hey, Adams was even worse.
Yeah.
He went 5-12.
Yep.
So, I mean, we basically both whiffed on the division.
Yep.
We had Cleveland and Baltimore flip-flopped as 1-2 in the division. I had Cleveland at 12-5 in first, Baltimore 9-8 in second, Pittsburgh 8-9 in third, which that was probably the closest one I had. Well, between Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And then Cincy at 7-10. I mean, what we actually got, Cincinnati at 10-7 won the entire division. Nobody got over 10 games.
Yep.
I mean, Pittsburgh went 9-7-1. I mean, outside of they beat Buffalo, that was the one game that flip-flopped the actual prediction because we both went 8-9.
Mm-hmm.
If Buffalo had beat them like everyone thought they would have, then they would have gone 8-9. Because, I mean, we're not counting that Detroit game. That's ridiculous. You tied the Lions.
Yep.
Get out of here.
Right.
Then we got Baltimore with the Lamar Jackson injury, and they lost 6 straight games at the end of the season.
Mm-hmm.
They couldn't have predicted that.
Right.
So I mean, they ended up at 8-9, and we predicted them at 9-8. I mean, I had them at 9-8. You had them at 12-5.
Yep.
So I mean, you were definitely predicting a healthy Lamar Jackson. Even with a healthy Lamar Jackson, I only gave them one more game than what they actually won.
Yep.
Because I think teams have actually started to figure out what they're doing. So, I mean, as a whole, this division is completely flipped inside out. It turned all the way around from what it was a year ago.
Yep. Highly agree, bro. What is your grade for Cincinnati after the postseason?
For the Cincinnati Bengals, I'm going to give them an A-. I mean, I would give them an A+, but, I mean, you look at them, they went from 4-11-1 to 10-7, and they were one play away from winning a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
I mean, if Aaron Donald does not get a hold of Joe Burrow, the Cincinnati Bengals win that Super Bowl.
That is a big ask, though, but I know what you mean.
But that is also a part of why they got the A- and not the A+, because the offensive line had no pulse. They were that good without an offensive line, and that's the only reason they didn't get an A+, because they didn't address it at all, and it was even worse than what we thought.
Yep.
I mean, Burrow and Chase have put the entire league on notice. They are no longer a sleeper. They are a contender, and they're going to be expected to continue to produce at that level.
Right. Now, of course, offensive line is a major, major need for Cincinnati. But next to that, if you have one, what would you say your biggest need is for this team overall?
Oh, I mean, next to that, they don't really have one next to it. It's just straight up offensive line. Like They gave up 51 sacks, led the league. They should scrap the whole line. Just go for all new offensive linemen. Just like I told y'all last week, in free agency and in the draft, just line.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to add the offensive line, get another tight end that helps to block, Gronk. Or, I mean, you might want to actually employ an offense that involves a fullback.
Right.
You need to do something to protect that man.
Right. Totally agree. There's no doubt about that. Yep, Fee said it perfectly. So starting with the little preseason look I had here on Cincinnati, I specifically said that Joe Burrow, of course, needed to be protected at all costs, which he definitely needed to, having the third worst offensive line in the NFL, or hell, you said the most sacks given up, so that's even crazier. I also thought that he needed to have a pretty good season as well, but I also said that it's not like he's going to be fighting for any awards. I specifically even mentioned the Comeback Player of the Year award, which he did win. I thought Dak Prescott was going to have a takeaway win for that, but clearly Joe Burrow was the better, more consistent quarterback over the entire season. And I also said that Jamar Chase would need to be worth that pick that he was. And I said that they were going to go 5-12, be last in the division. Jamar Chase clearly put the league on notice. Joe Burrow clearly won Comeback Player of the Year and probably wasn't far from being in some of those close MVP votings as well. And obviously Cincinnati just had a hell of a season as they walked in, going to the Super Bowl, winning the AFC, and taking everybody by surprise. Now, I did have an A- here for Cincinnati as well. I do highly agree with Fees. It would have been at least an A or an A. Well, of course, it would have been an A+ had they won the Super Bowl. Your head coach is walking in with, 6 wins on his record. He was definitely on my hot seat. I even said it in that video. Zach Taylor was on my hot seat. There were so many question marks for the Cincinnati team. And I said, look, this team has so much left to go. I don't know if it's going to be within the next potentially 2 to 5 years or 2 to 4 years to where this team actually makes a run. But, hey, they proved me wrong, ran to the Super Bowl, and Cincinnati played a very good game, I would say, overall. Now, of course, offensive line definitely needs to be addressed. Fees definitely went through that there enough. I mentioned Penei Sewell getting drafted. I thought that they should have taken him. And, of course, they brought in a unit for him as well. But he clearly could have been protected more. I mean, over 50 sacks in the league. Plenty of quarterbacks hits, pressures, hurries, whatever the case may have been. Joe Burrow was harassed all year, especially in the postseason. I understand after the, the Tennessee game, I think 1 sack overall over the next 2 games, but then the Super Bowl came around. We knew it was going to be essentially unguardable for that Rams defensive line. So the Cincinnati Bengals fell short there. But I will say, I think they need to get a number 2, a solid number 2 option behind Joe Mixon. I respect Samaje Perine, no doubt about that. But outside of, I want to say, his first year in the league with Washington, like 605 yards, less than 300 yards last year. for the for Samaje Perine as the number 2, back up to Joe Mixon. Now, whether that was injuries or not, I totally understand this, the subject there, but you still have to make that more of an aggressive move because we don't want to see another Matthew Stafford, potentially Justin Herbert, Patrick Mahomes, to where they are so reliant on the quarterback, obviously, within the team. Like, you're just now building this culture. Don't wear Joe Burrow out. He's already went through a major injury. He's already also still dealing with a horrible O-line. Build up the O-line. Definitely get him a number 2 running back in there. All right, Fees, talk to me about the I think we had the Steelers up next here. Yep, talk to me about Pittsburgh. Tell me what you thought about them in the preseason.
Preseason, I said the Pittsburgh Steelers would be 8-9. They ended up finishing the season 9-7-1. They pulled one win that we didn't give them.
Right.
And then they had a tie against the Lions, which was just ridiculous. So, overall for the season, Pittsburgh went from 12-4 a year ago to 9-7-1 this season. I'll give them a C+. I'm not going below. I won't give them a failing grade just for the mere fact that they did moonwalk into the playoffs with a winning record. You can't give them a failing record if they actually made the wild card.
Right.
Granted, they did get smacked by 21 points to Kansas City. They swept the Ravens and the Browns. And they ended up somehow beating Buffalo and Tennessee. So, they won a lot of games that we did not give them credit for winning. Granted, they did lose a bunch of games that we thought that they should have won. So, overall for the season, I'm giving them the C+ just for at least staying the course. They somehow made the playoffs in a season where we felt like they would be mediocre and be on the outside looking in, especially coming out now without Big Ben. We didn't think that they would be able to actually accomplish any of what they did last season. That was mainly because of the defense. But now they have a bigger mountain to climb. So, what you're talking about, the needs for Pittsburgh, clearly is quarterback.
Right.
Big Ben retired. Mason Rudolph is a backup quarterback. They have plenty of offensive weapons. They got a strong defense,
right,
especially with Flores sitting back there so long as they can actually get past the distractions. They got a top-tier running back in Najee Harris. So they just need a legitimate quarterback.
Yep.
They don't need a great quarterback. They need a legitimate quarterback. They were able to pull in. I know there's a lot of speculation of Jimmy G possibly getting traded to Tampa. But if Jimmy was to go to Pittsburgh, plenty of weapons, good defense, he probably should be at the top of their board outside of them being worried about injuries. But I've also heard them talking about Carson Wentz. He's hurt more than Jimmy, and he's not accomplished as much as Jimmy. So, they're looking at all kinds of injury-ridden quarterbacks. You might as well pick up that phone and call San Francisco.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And there's even been speculation as well. I heard a couple weeks back from shout out to Pim McCann. He was talking about Matt Ryan potentially going to the Steelers, and I was like, man, that would
no money for that.
Right. No money for that, absolutely, definitely because of the contract that's on his back. But just thinking about the general fit of a Ben to a Ryan. Obviously, you have the fall off of the arm there, but that could be a whole nother conversation. Speaking to Pittsburgh, I had a little bit of remarks about them in the preseason. So I did, fortunately, correctly call that TJ Watt will get Defensive Player of the Year votes. He obviously did win that award for this year. Of course, the defense will be one of the best in the league. That did happen to play out. And then I also did say that the offense will also struggle majorly with Big Ben at the helm, which 9 wins, you obviously can't doubt that. They did moonwalk into the playoffs, like you mentioned. But Pittsburgh was never a team that you were absolutely blown away by on the field, offensively anyways. More times than not, it was really, really rough to watch Pittsburgh on the field offensively because you never knew what they were going to do. They were never consistent. They were never a major team that was going to give you I feel like the bare minimum in the NFL nowadays is at least 21 to 25 points. I don't even know if they were accountable for some of that, and I'm sure someone's going to pull the receipts on the game scores here. But as far as them getting into those actual offensive production schemes, I don't think it ever truly happened. In the NFL season, I did call the 8-9 record. They did go 9-7-1, so we were kind of similar there. And I did say that Najee Harris will be a 1,000-yard rusher. Now, in terms of my grade for the Pittsburgh Steelers in 2022, I do give them a B- simply because, I almost said Brian Flores here, simply because Mike Tomlin dealt with so many injuries throughout the year. He had an injury in Big Ben. He had an injury to his offensive line. He obviously had injuries somewhat with TJ Watt in the beginning of the year. That's a major thing is we forget that TJ Watt actually sitting here on air thinking about it now. TJ Watt was kind of shaky those first few games of the year because he was dealing with some injuries, wasn't always in for 100% of the snaps. Like, we didn't really know at that time if TJ Watt was going to stand the test of time. You had obviously some jokes about, look at JJ, how it runs in the family, because obviously for the last, 5 to 6 years, JJ Watt hasn't been super healthy as well. I do have to stick them with a B- though, because they went through so many injuries, still made the playoffs. Yes, they obviously got blown out by the Chiefs, but I have a lot of respect for Mike Tomlin, and I think what he did was very, very tough for this NFL season, kind of like, why Vrabel got Coach of the Year. In terms of needs for the Pittsburgh Steelers, of course, quarterback fees, no question about it. I mean, whether you're potentially searching for an A-Rod, if Deshaun Watson might get cleared up, Russell Wilson, Matt Ryan, you have to be on the prowess. A lot like the New Orleans Saints this year, you have to go out and search. Even in the same situation with a retired quarterback, you have to truly understand what is coming towards you, because it's going to be very different. I understand if you have confidence, in Mason Rudolph and all the other guys that could come behind him, but he's not going to be the guy to elevate the franchise, and we know that. I also have to say the offensive line as well. Clearly, Big Ben was getting harassed plenty of times this year. The offensive line has always been, not always been, but at least for the last few seasons, one of the weaker links of Pittsburgh. So if they could go out, I understand that they got a Pat Freiermuth, but he's more obviously, designated as a tight end in that offensive scheme. But if they could pull in some more, free agent offensive linemen or draft a couple of offensive linemen, that would be very key for them, because you got a mini Derrick Henry in the backfield. There's no question about that. A little Jonathan Taylor, whatever you want to look at Najee Harris at. But he needs some push up front for sure. All right, Fees, talk to me about Baltimore. What do you think about them in the preseason?
Baltimore Ravens, I had them coming out at 9-8. They finished at 8-9. I was not nearly as high on them as you were coming into the season, just because of what I've been seeing year in and year out after the explosion of Lamar Jackson. I know people are like, oh, it's disrespectful to say teams have figured him out. Teams have maybe not so much figured him out numbers-wise. I mean, he's still getting his stats when he's actually playing. Right. But figuring him out is more so they've figured out how to contain him enough to beat him.
Right.
That's all you're ultimately trying to do. That's what I need to do, is win the game. I don't have to stop you from rushing for 100. I don't have to stop you from throwing for 300. If you don't do both in the game and we win, that's a win. So that's figuring out. So, I mean, I'm giving Baltimore a C for the season overall, and their grade would be much lower than a C if they didn't have to deal with so many injuries. I mean, Lamar Jackson came out this season. They started really strong. I mean, they lost that gut-wrenching game to start the season in Vegas, which I knew they would lose because the Raiders were going to win their first game with fans in that stadium. They didn't stand a chance, and it was a tight game. But after that, they started 5-1. So, I mean, the Ravens looked like they were rolling. I mean, your prediction looked like it was on point at that point. I mean, then Lamar just straight up got banged up. I mean, just like I told you earlier, they lost their last 6 games of the season.
Yeah, that's absolutely nuts. Looking back on
Lamar missed 4 of those games, and he lost one of them. Well, he lost 2 of them that he actually started in. I mean, they did play very good teams. Their schedule got tough towards the end of the season, but it's inexcusable for you to just lose 6 straight. But for you to finish the season at 8-9 after losing 6 in a row, clearly, like you missed something halfway along the road, and that something that you missed was Lamar. I mean, they easily could have been, I only gave them one more win than what they got, but they could have easily been at least a 10-win team had Lamar been healthy. So, I mean, as far as what they need moving into the next season, they need to protect Lamar. I mean, that might mean that they need to change their schemes a little bit so they stop putting him in a position where he gets hit so much, but he needs more skill position players. They've got to get wide receivers and running backs in there that can produce and make big plays that aren't named Lamar. Teams are like, hey, no one else on this field can beat us. Like, we're going to go ahead and just sit back. We'll try to make him throw. If he does run, we're going to put a hat on him. Hit him every time. Like, they're making him pay for the explosive plays, and they're not allowing him to beat them like that. I mean, clearly his backup he's not up to scruff. We're talking about he's got to come in and do what Lamar's doing. Lamar's completely carrying the entire football team. Like, the Baltimore Ravens need more on offense.
Yeah.
All the way around. I mean, they've got Andrews. I mean, yeah, you've got a good tight end.
Right.
Outside of that, I need more running backs. Like, your running back room is nothing.
Right.
You need more wide receivers. Hollywood Brown is not it.
Nope.
He's good, but he's not it.
Right.
You need some more top flight guys. Somebody to actually scare an opposing defense. make them actually play a softer coverage. If you gave Lamar more space, he might go for 100 yards a game.
Yeah.
But no one has to do that.
Right.
It's like the Baltimore Ravens need to modernize their offense because it's actually it's starting to look like they're Georgia Tech.
Ooh, Georgia Tech college offense in the NFL. Man, Fees, we're going to have some Ravens fans on our heads, but hey, that's what we're trying to do. Call into the show. No callers yet. 678-871-9602, 678-871-9602. We are in the middle of the AFC North postseason wrap-up, ladies and gentlemen, talking about the Baltimore Ravens here. So a little bit of my preseason peek in here. So I did have them going 12-5. I did say Lamar Jackson must lead them on a playoff run, but I did also mention that it will all depend on him learning to throw the football more, which again, through the first 11 games of the season, you know, there was a narrative that we had here on Petty Sports at the beginning of that season, and it was, what is Lamar Jackson doing this week that we said he couldn't do the week before, or that we said he couldn't do a season or 2 seasons ago? Like, that was the narrative of Lamar Jackson. And go back and look at all the Ravens breakdowns that we had, whether it was a game review or the preseason predictions, whatever it was. Well, not the preseason, excuse me, but a lot of the in-season content when we talked about Baltimore. For that first few 11 games, we said a lot. What is Lamar doing that he has not been over the last few years? And I also mentioned that the Ravens majorly need a receiving core. I don't know if many people remember this. They were 31st in the NFL last year next to the New York Jets in passing yards per game. Absolutely horrible. Did not move all year. So clearly Lamar struggled to throw the football. The receivers had problems getting open. They did not have any passing presence on this team really for most of the season, in 2021. Well, 2020 to 2021, excuse me. Talking about a grade for the Baltimore Ravens, I did want to be a little harsh on them, maybe kind of in the D category, but I am going to give them a C+ at this moment because I know they dealt with a lot of injuries in the backfield. I know they dealt with a lot of injuries in the secondary. And when you have, literally, when you think about Baltimore, for me, the first 2 things I think about is running game and defensive culture. They run the football well, and they clearly know how to suffocate you on the defensive side of the ball. When you're talking about Marlon Humphrey going out, when you're talking about other secondary players going out, when you're talking about literally a Gus Edwards, a J.K. Dobbins, God, wasn't there a third? Was there a third running back that tore ACL? I think it was Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins, and then I think, say it again?
Did they bring in Murray?
They brought in Latavius Murray, former Saint and Viking. But yeah, and then I want to say Marlon Humphrey as well obviously had a really nasty injury. So they had a couple of key injuries within that franchise. So I couldn't be necessarily hard on them because, most of them were key players, let's just be real. So I will stick with a C+ grade there. And when I talk about the biggest need for Baltimore coming next year, not only wide receiver, of course, but let's talk about the secondary. Let's talk about the fact that the secondary for a decent part of the season was no joke. Dead last. A Baltimore Ravens secondary was dead last in the NFL in passing yards allowed per game. 32nd on their cornerbacks and safeties for that point in the NFL. And that was extremely disappointing to see because, again, year in and year out, we know that if you get anything with Baltimore, at least before the Lamar Jackson era, it was 2 things. They know how to run the football, and they know how to play defense. They clearly have a defensive culture at that point in the franchise. And again, they always have. We can look back through the years. We know to expect that from Baltimore. So that's going to be my wrap on Baltimore. Before we get out of here, man, talk to me about those disappointing Cleveland Browns.
Man, just like you had Baltimore way up, I had Cleveland at 12
Super Bowl, sir.
I had them at 12-5. They finished at 8-9.
Yep.
It was a nasty fall from grace. They were 11-5 a season before. Finished at 8-9, traded OBJ, blamed him for all of Baker Mayfield's shortcomings, and then OBJ went and got a Super Bowl ring.
Right.
So, they lost nearly every close game they played this season. The Cleveland Browns had a lot of tight football games, and they lost all of them.
Yep.
They were the good teams. If they could actually get over the hump, they could have had a good season. Overall, I'm giving Cleveland an F for the season. And it was a complete fail.
Yeah.
From 11-5, going to the divisional round, being in a knockout drag-out game where they had a legitimate gripe about a no call that could have propelled them to the AFC Championship, to this nonsense.
A no call between them and Kansas City?
Yeah, I mean,
What
remember
was
it
it
could have
again?
been a helmet at the goal line.
Oh God. Ooh.
Like,
Browns culture was turned up in that moment.
Yeah.
I know exactly what you're talking about there.
yes, I mean it was a touchy play. I mean, you saw it in the replay, but the ref couldn't see that in real time. So I
Right.
mean, it was what it was. But you felt like coming off of that would have been enough to propel them into an inspired season for the Cleveland Browns. I thought the Browns would be the Bengals this year. Like they have a better roster than the Bengals.
Right.
The only thing that the Cleveland Browns need is a quarterback.
Yep.
Baker Mayfield is single-handedly holding them back. They've got the wide receivers. They've got the tight ends. They probably have the best running back room in the entire NFL. I mean, it's insane. They've got Myles Garrett out there. He's dunking on people in the celebrity game. He's also sacking a quarterback like it's going out of style. The Browns have a really good defense. They have everything on offense. They're just simply missing a quarterback. Like, Baker Mayfield cannot make the plays.
Yeah.
It's very apparent that it's him. They complained about OBJ. He left. He balled. It wasn't OBJ. Baker has some type of other mental block. I don't know if it's he can't handle the stardom of OBJ. Jarvis Landry is now ready to get out of there because he doesn't want to play with him. If they can move off of Baker Mayfield and bring in at least a consistent quarterback, they'll at the very least be in the playoffs. I mean, they could go to the playoffs if they had Kirk Cousins. They just need something stable. I mean, Baker is not it. Like, I gave him all the credit last season, and as he came for the season before, as he walked into this season and showed us week in and week out, when they put the game in his hands, something always happens. Be like, oh, well, he got sacked. Well, I mean, the play was there. He never makes the play.
Yeah.
He can't make the throw.
Nope.
More times than none, he throws an interception in those big moments. He is holding that team back.
Yep.
So they get an F because of Baker.
Whew, an F. Coming down hard on the Cleveland, Ohio football natives, man. That's definitely, well, hell, you got Cincinnati and you got Cleveland, right? Choose who you want to root for. All right. In terms of the preseason talks that I had for Cleveland here, I did mention that Baker will continue to be a major question for the franchise, which realistically I feel like he was. You know, again, the hype for Baker was absolutely ridiculous because this man literally played, I'm not even going to say well. People determined it as well because he finally played good up to the moment in about an 8 to 10 game stretch, and everyone was like, oh my God, pay Baker. He's the franchise. Look, all you guys were wrong. This is why he's the number one pick. Absolutely not, because you come back. Notice Cleveland did not pick up that option for his rookie deal, so they clearly want him to prove it right here in the NFL. And I feel like when you only amount to 8 wins, that is going to be a major question for your franchise. I also did mention that Baker would play a little bit better than last year, which unfortunately he did not. I was very wrong on that. And of course, the fans wanted a Super Bowl run this year after winning 11 games, after winning all of what, 5 or 6 games in the last, 3 or 4 previous seasons. And I mean, you even mentioned it like, look, I'm taking Cleveland to go to the Super Bowl. And I thought that was a little bit of an outlandish stretch there, but you had a good claim. Cleveland had a lot of materials that you wanted in a Super Bowl winning team. And considering some of the success that we've seen in the previous Super Bowls, I couldn't doubt you for that pick there. Now, I did have them going 10-7. In resorts to Cleveland, though, I had to give them a C-, and I understand that you're giving them an F here. But again, with what I just said, let's not act like that Cleveland didn't win 5 to 6 games, in a compilation of, 3 to 4 seasons before finally, obviously Freddie Kitchens was a bust, but before Stefanski came in and finally turned it around. Double-digit win team, we've heard all about it with the Browns. When you are essentially bad for so long and you hit 1 year of greatness, the same reason I cannot put Matthew Stafford in the Hall of Fame. Talented, right? But 1 year of greatness doesn't automatically punch your ticket into being good overall, right? Same thing for the Cleveland Browns. You had, 15, 20 years of being the meme of the NFL, just horrible outcomes, right? Nobody believed in the Cleveland Browns. just because you go from 11 to 8 isn't enough for me to give them a failing grade for the season. So I am going to have to stick at a C- in that aspect. And Fees, I'm right there with you, man. The Cleveland Browns 100% need a quarterback at this moment. This is probably Baker's last year. Let's just call it how it is. I don't think that Baker Mayfield has that, potential of a ceiling to be only a backup quarterback in the NFL. Because, there's no doubting that he clearly played well for 8 to 10 games, of last season. But that wasn't enough for me, again, to buy in on him as a franchise guy, or, he deserves $30 million. Okay, if he gets that, it's only because of the market. But Baker Mayfield's not worth a penny, not even a dime, a penny above $25 million to me, for what he showed me in the major moments for the franchise, for the clutch moments that he's needed to be there, and he hasn't been. So I am going to have to say that. And I know the Browns fans, look, y'all are going to be all over me. Go ahead and hop in the comments, subscribe to the page, tell me about it on Facebook, whatever it may be. I know y'all are going to blast the show for saying that Baker Mayfield needs to be the he's essentially the problem. He's been holding the Browns back for a while. I'm going to stick with the quarterback there as the biggest need. It is 9:30 on Petty Sports, ladies and gentlemen. We have just went through the entire AFC North on the postseason wrap-up. More divisions to come. Bell, I'm going to throw it over to you, and then we're going to come back and talk about a little bit of an interesting partnership with the National Football League. Mike, take it away.
Yeah. Appreciate that, Adam. Ladies and gentlemen, you're tuned in. Like always, we greatly appreciate you watching Petty Sports, all brought to you by Pulse 880 Radio. We got the guys, Famous Facts Fees, and Adam Lewis at the table tonight. Like always, we like to thank everybody that's been in the chat room going at it off and on throughout the show. Feel free to call in at 678-871-9602. If you're in the chat room, man, let us know what you're drinking and smoking on. How you passing your time while you're watching the show over there, man. You know what I'm saying? So, hey, it is the bottom of the hour, last 29 minutes of the show. Get your calls in. I know you about done with your popcorn now, so hit us up. All right, ATL, back to the regular scheduled program. Happy Black Future Month.
Yes, sir. Just like he said, happy Black Future Month. We got to highlight one of our black excellent pioneers of this HBCU movement. We got to put a spotlight on Deion Sanders. He had went to Jackson State. He really made waves. He went out there. He brought the primetime flair. He really got everyone paying attention to HBCU football. He got the NFL is now, he's not the reason they're doing the HBCU combine, but since he's gone there, we've now seen Eddie George jump into Tennessee State. We got Hugh Jackson at Grambling. The stars are coming out. People are, I guess, it's really starting to become a movement. The transfer portal is off the chain. He's stealing 5-star recruits now.
Oh, yeah.
Deion Sanders needs to make his way to the list of people being honored for Black History Month because he put the shine on HBCUs. Big ups to prime time.
No doubt about that. There was a I don't remember what it was. It was I think a few weeks ago, maybe a month or so back. It was talking about how 3 specific HBCUs had more commits, I think, than 10 other SEC teams or something like that. It was absolutely nuts. But there's no argument for that, man. Deion Sanders has definitely changed the landscape of HBCUs. And it's going to be so awesome, man, to see what it just ripples into over time, because, NIL was it's almost like NIL kind of opened up, that leeway for the HBCU, and now they're just going to feed off of it. They're just going to benefit it. They're just going to change so many black athletes' lives, so many black coaches' lives. It's going to be truly great to see, how that plays out, man. But speaking of that partnership that we were discussing lightly before we hit the break, the NFL and the XFL have now partnered up to create innovation programs, potentially promote player safety, and even recruit officials. Thank the Lord, this officiating could not get any worse. With the XFL, we're set to return in a year, with Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson being a spearhead of that company. Do you think this little Petri dish experiment truly helps the NFL, Fees?
I think it'll be great. Just because what the NFL usually tries to do, every year each team submits rule change requests, and most of them get rejected.
I did not know that.
Yeah, like every team submits a request. They're like, can we change this? Usually it's something personal because of something that happened to them over the course of the season, and the league is like, hell no. But lots of times,
Shout out Sean Payton, right?
but lots of times they come with some pretty good stuff. So like this right here gives them a chance for like the fringe rules. They're like, yeah, that was not bad, but we're not going to do that. They can go ahead and try it out in the XFL in the spring. So, I mean, this league, like, it's not going to involve any player sharing, so no one under NFL contract is going to actually be allowed to also play in the XFL or vice versa. It's just about ideas and concepts. I mean, they're going to experiment with rules, new equipment, from shoulder pads to helmets to anything that you could think of. They'll, just like you said, develop refs and coaches where you can actually go in there and get experience. And they also said they're going to experiment with playing surfaces. With all the technology they've got out there, if they feel like, oh, maybe they should play on this instead of this synthetic grass or field turf or whatever it is that they got out there, they can try it out in the XFL and see how it works. Just like we watched the Sky Judge when we were doing the, what was that, in the XFL before. Like, they can try out stuff and see, like, hey, like, that seems to be like a pretty cool concept. That could be something good for the league. But now they've got just like what they call it a Petri dish, which is, that's hella disrespectful to the league for them to call it a Petri dish. I mean, it's like, damn. Like, yeah, I mean,
we're just going to test you out to see if you work. Nope. All right, on to the next.
Yeah. But, I mean, I think this is a really good idea for them to partner with them just so the ideas that they're bouncing around don't just fall by the wayside because they're like, nah, you know what? We're just not going to do that because that's too drastic a change. Now they can put it in there, implement it over there, see what it looks like, and be like, yeah, I think we can do that. So, I think it'll be a very positive relationship between the NFL and the XFL in that aspect.
Right. I definitely agree, man. Because if there's one thing that, we've seen or rather had complaints about with the NFL, it's the fact that, there's no other league essentially that could remotely hang with them. I understand getting the confidence, getting out there, starting your own league, XFL coming back. We had the USFL there for, a split second during the pandemic, and they're actually coming back, I want to say, in a few months, April, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, the USFL is coming back, so that'll be interesting to look at. I do think it will truly help the NFL. Of course, the first thing that stood out to me, y'all heard me say it when we brought in the topic, is the fact that they are potentially going to recruit officials from the XFL over to the NFL. I don't know what the hell the criteria is for being an NFL official. Obviously, you have to have some time in, pee-wee ball, college, whatever the case may be. But the officiating, I mean, hell, just just look at the two calls that were complained the most in the Super Bowl were blown calls. They were not called. They either should or should not have been called, or they were called incorrectly, right? So the fact that they could use that, juice there to recruit NFL officials, I really do appreciate that there, because as a fan, it is consistently getting harder season in and season out to truly appreciate the officiating, because you're talking about so many guys on the field putting their lives on the line, millions of dollars, this, that, and the third. So I do agree with that. In terms of player safety, I feel like the NFL does have that pretty much on a lock in general, looking for innovation programs as well. So if anything, businesses obviously out there are looking to, make the business better, obviously improve them, whatever they can do within the league. Don't rest on your laurels, rather, is, what some people say out there. But I do think that this will truly help the NFL, because, again, what some people complain about is, it's kind of like with the game Madden, right? Nobody else makes an NFL game besides EA Sports. So, no joke, for anybody watching, if you don't play Madden, I would say for the last at least 3 to 4 games, there has been nothing majorly different. Like when you made the jump from 20 to 21, it was kind of different with the throwing mechanics, but overall, essentially the same, right? But there hasn't been a major difference. I mean, it's literally rinse and repeat, same type of tackling system, new players. And some people say that's what the NFL is, rinse and repeat, same type of stuff, just new players coming in for the draft. But when you talk about the XFL potentially having an influence, and again, they use the Petri dish, verbiage there. So it's literally saying we're going to test out what the XFL has. Doesn't mean we're going to commit. And who knows, they might bring in some other, collaborations, maybe with the USFL or whatever else may be out there, the CFL, who knows. But yeah, I think it will help the NFL because it's kind of, it just goes back to the, two brains are better than one on a situation. Two pairs of eyes are better than one on a situation. When you have help and collaborating ideas, it's never going to be a negative thing for your league. But now moving on, I know we don't talk baseball on here a lot, guys, but when I threw this into the lineup, I was just truly taken back again how we are referring to Freddie Freeman with the World Series champions, the Atlanta Braves, literally the champions of baseball right now. There are rumors that Freddie Freeman might not be returning to the Atlanta Braves. After they've, during the lockout, after they've won the World Series championship. And if there's one thing that I can say about this situation, it's the fact that wouldn't it be the most Atlanta Braves damn thing to do to literally be, and I don't say this disrespectfully, but the best team in Major League Baseball winning the championship, right? But you can't bring back your best player. How does that make any sense? Because, again, I've talked about it on this show when we, rarely bring baseball into the topic. The Braves, just like a lot of Atlanta teams, have been consistently cheap year over year, season over season. They don't want to pay the big money. They want to always try to cheap out. They want to go potentially fish for free agents. And when Freddie Freeman literally had an offer, I think it was not a year. I think it was about 2 months back, if I'm thinking correctly. Freddie Freeman had an offer on the table for, I want to say, about $27.5 million a year. Extremely disrespectful. He rightfully turned it down, and I wasn't mad that he turned it down because I think when you look at, or not even I think, I know for a fact when you look at the best first baseman in Major League Baseball, you have to put Freddie Freeman in the top 5, if not the top 3, or the best overall. Like the floor of Freddie Freeman is being a top 5 first baseman in the league. And again, I understand you have a Ronald Acuna. I understand you have an Austin Riley. I understand you have so many players for your Atlanta Braves, right? But we know, without a doubt, and Gary and Bell, correct me if I'm wrong, that Freddie Freeman is the best player for the Atlanta Braves right now. Yes, over Ronald Acuna Jr. Even if Acuna was playing, I still believe that Freeman would have been the best player overall on this team. And I don't understand how it becomes any sort of a speculation, because I understand the numbers in the NLCS, right? Oh, my God, he played horrible. Or in the divisional series, played horrible. He was like 0 for 7, 5 strikeouts, 7 strikeouts, whatever it was, right? I totally understand the concern with that and essentially the, I guess, reservation. And Fee, stop me at any point that you want to, man. I guess the reservation, rather, that the Braves have. But again, it would be the most Atlanta sports, let alone Braves thing to do to win the championship and at any cost not be able to bring back your best player. Because let's just look at what I'm alluding to here, right, with Atlanta sports teams. Well, not even Atlanta sports teams. Let's just talk about the Braves, because we for sure have seen this pattern with the Braves. Okay, it was my freshman year of high school, like 2012, 2013. I remember the Braves had like Jason Hayward, Martin Prado, the Upton brothers, Andrelton Simmons. Freddie Freeman was still there. Like, they still had, I don't remember who was holding down third base at the time, but no joke, every key player we had for that season was either traded, let go, couldn't agree on money, whatever the case was. They did not play for the Atlanta Braves walking into the 2013-2014 MLB season, or 2013 MLB season, excuse me. Luckily, we have some lineage from, April to October. It lines up for us. And I literally remember sitting there in class wondering, how the hell do they let these players go? Because to me, I don't think the Braves were as talented this year, ironically, even with winning the World Series. I don't think they were as talented this year winning it as they were back in my freshman year of high school, 2012 baseball year. I saw so many players come through the Braves, and I've seen so many players go out of the back door because the Braves are cheap, because the Braves don't want to answer to their needs, because the Braves don't want to pay money. Atlanta, let's not forget that, obviously, outside of the Bulldogs and the, our soccer team, Atlanta United, that the Atlanta Braves, for many, many years, were kind of up there in the top of the NL for, good baseball teams. Will we see them go to the World Series? Will they be in the championship series? This, that, and the third. But also, how many years did we say they haven't spent enough money on the lineup? They haven't spent enough money on starting pitching. We just now started getting into our bullpen. I'm still a little nervous about the closing position. Like, there are so many moving parts for a team that literally just won the championship. And the fact that, again, bringing back your best player, it's like, I truly do not understand how bringing back your best player cannot be a priority. That would be like, let's make a perfect analogy before we move on to Tom Brady and the Niners. So Cooper Kupp literally had 1,000 more yards than he did last year. Double the catches. Like, Cooper Kupp had a historic NFL season, right? You don't think Cooper Kupp's going to be getting calls from other teams this year to come be our wide receiver one? Absolutely he will be. Hell, I hope my New Orleans Saints make a call, even if they're going to get turned down, right? But the fact that you can have these type of incidents flowing through, the fact that you could have these type of incidents flowing through Cooper Kupp's head, but he's still going to choose to potentially stay with the Rams. And also what's going to influence that, the fact that the Rams and Sean McVay and Matthew Stafford and Aaron Donald and Von Miller and Jalen Ramsey are going to advocate for their best offensive player this year coming back to play for them. And I know that the Braves in the locker room are going to rally around Freeman, right? I know that the coaches, I know that the fans want Freeman back. But you already offered him a horrible offer. Now there's rumors after the MLB lockout, which I don't understand. Billionaires and millionaires, you're literally in the top 1% of the 1% of the world with money, are fighting right now, for this MLB lockout. But again, I say all that to say I do not understand. And it would be the most Atlanta Braves move to win your first championship since the late 90s and not make it a priority. Even if Austin Riley walks, even if a good pitcher walks, you have to keep Freddie Freeman. He has been here since 2007. Let's move on to Tom Brady and the San Francisco 49ers. So rumors are actually starting to gain a little bit of traction, fees, that Jimmy G could be traded. Tom Brady could come out of retirement if he's ever going to settle in and actually come back and play for the San Francisco 49ers. Now, the ultimate question is, what do you think the Super Bowl odds could be for this Niners team if they actually made this trade?
I mean, their current Super Bowl odds are already at plus 1,400, which they're fourth in Super Bowl odds. They're sitting right behind KC, Buffalo, and the Rams.
Damn.
Yeah, like, so they're already very high.
Right.
And I mean, that's via Caesar Sportsbook, which is very reputable. But I mean, San Francisco, I think if they were to pick up Brady, they would probably jump ahead of the Rams, but I don't think they would go higher than third.
Yeah.
So I mean, you look at them at plus 1,400, the Rams are at plus 1,200, but then you got Kansas City at plus 700 and Buffalo at plus 750. They're not going to jump that much.
Right.
I mean, that would be an astronomical jump. They could jump ahead of the Rams, which would be very reasonable. I mean, San Francisco went 2-1 against the Rams last season. 2 of those games were 3-point games. They won one of them in overtime by 3 points at the end of the season to make the playoffs, and then they lost by 3 in the NFC Championship game. So, I mean, they feel like they were 3 points away from a Super Bowl with Jimmy G. If you bring in Brady, then it's not far-fetched to be like, oh, they absolutely would have been in the Super Bowl if they had had him instead of Jimmy. But the other top 2 odds are just a little bit too high for them to jump any farther than that. So, I mean, as far as their odds are concerned, I would say that would jump them into the 3 spot. But if you consider the fact that the 2 teams ahead of them are in the AFC, them jumping to the 3 spot places them in the Super Bowl. They don't have to play Tampa. I mean, they don't have to play Kansas City or Buffalo until the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They're not NFC teams because the NFC is not that strong. I mean, we've seen that. There are a couple of good teams, but for the most part, NFC is a lot weaker than the AFC right now. AFC is a gauntlet. They're stacked over there. So, I mean, if he was to go to San Francisco, they would definitely be the favorite to represent the NFC in the Super Bowl in Super Bowl 57.
The favorite in the NFC, you think, to represent the Super Bowl?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm typing back to Banks on here. He told me I was just talking. Sorry, I had to get back at him there. So Tom Brady to San Francisco. Okay, so first of all, I remember when I was at a restaurant job and I was actually opening the bar and we had a couple TVs there, and Skip and Shannon on FS1 were literally talking about, okay, there's rumors about Tom Brady leaving, this, that, and the third. And I was like, wow, these guys really need some content, don't they? I was like, there's no damn way that Tom Brady leaves. Like, we had seen what he's done. It was Brady, right? It was Brady in New England. Nobody ever thought that a bond like that was going to be broken until it happened. And so now you have the speculation here of, obviously, Brady wanting to go over to San Francisco. They've got a lot of leadership. Well, not a lot of leadership. They got a lot of talent over there. They got a lot of young players. So you have to ask yourself, would Tom Brady be able to benefit off of that situation? And I do say yes in that aspect because you obviously have Kyle Shanahan. You're going to have a great defense behind you, which Brady has really benefited from within his entire career. Definitely a top 10 defense. And again, you'll have offensive weapons to where he would be able to be comfortable. He would walk into a situation that was better than some of the last years in New England. Obviously not better than, the Bucs, the Bucs organization, but it could potentially compare considering how, 3 years, 2 NFC championships, and we're talking about Jimmy Garoppolo. Tom Brady, I think personally, probably the most clutch player of all time in the NFL, would definitely be able to, clinch some of those moments for the 49ers, would definitely be able to, come through in those big moments where the 49ers have fell short because, again, when Jimmy G came in and he won like the last 5 games after they traded for him. And then Kyle Shanahan came in and they kind of had some bad times, but then the healthy year comes around and the Super Bowl comes in. If you're talking about another healthy year, even with a 45-year-old potentially Tom Brady, I don't know if I'm going to necessarily say they will be the NFC favorites to go to the Super Bowl, but I can't disagree with, the top 3 to 5 Super Bowl odds, And, because we know who Brady is. We don't have to sit up here and talk about what Brady's been in his entire career. It's Tom Brady. Literally, those 2 words, Tom Brady, that's enough to summarize 20 years, right? But a bigger question within this aspect, we know it would be good for Tom, and we know that he would elevate their Super Bowl odds. If the trade went down, who do you think the winner is? 45-year-old Brady or Jimmy G that's been to 2 NFC title games and 3 healthy seasons?
I don't even think the winner,
2 healthy seasons, excuse me.
I don't even think the winner of the trade goes to the players. Jimmy clearly is on his way out. Tom is retired. If Tom decides to come back, I think Tampa clearly wins this trade. Because Tom staying in retirement means that Kyle Trask is their next quarterback unless they can figure something out to make a trade, make a move, draft someone, but they're not drafting very high, definitely not high enough to get someone out of this weak quarterback class.
Yeah.
So, they've already got a Super Bowl out of Brady. That 2 years, they got 1 Super Bowl, got to the divisional rounds. They've pretty much maxed out for what you can get out of 2 years out of a guy. They bring Jimmy G in. He's the poor man's version of Brady. He learned everything that he knows under him, so he can come in and run the exact same offense that they have been running. They don't have to change a thing. Re-sign the rest of your players. Bring in Jimmy G. Now you have another quarterback to take over after the departure of Brady, who just came in and pumped life into your program. But without that trade, they're just stuck. So I think it's clear cut that Tampa bringing Jimmy in, that makes the Bucs the winner. That doesn't mean that the Bucs will be better than San Francisco, but the Bucs clearly win this trade because Tom going to San Francisco, he may give him 1 year, 2 tops.
Yeah.
No way more than 2 years. And now you're looking like, is Trey Lance really as good as we think he is? Or is he simply Jordan Love all over again?
Damn.
But drafted way higher and a lot more draft capital given up to get him. Because to this point, clearly he isn't that guy. They're talking about trading Jimmy, and no one is discussing Trey taking over. If Trey was that guy, they'd just get rid of Jimmy and see what they can get for him, and these rumors wouldn't even be circulating.
That's a hell of a point to put out there, Fees. I didn't even think about it in that aspect.
That why the hell would they be looking at getting Brady if Trey was what we all thought he was? I won't say they. I'll say what we thought he was. Because I thought he was that good too.
Yeah. I didn't think he was number 3 pick good, but I thought he was clearly good enough to go first round from what we had seen, even if he hadn't played at NDS, so.
Especially after a year sitting, he got some time to learn and develop. I don't actually see it. Mm-hmm. And clearly San Francisco doesn't either.
Right.
But they're not trying to stick with Jimmy because Jimmy is injury prone. So, if you were to bring in Tom, he could potentially bring a 6 championship so you can jump into that pantheon with Pittsburgh and New England. So now there'd be 3 teams with 6.
Yeah.
Like that would be, it's a no-brainer for both sides.
Tom's like, yeah, I'll jump ship to go make another team have as many total Super Bowls as I did, winning all the Super Bowls for another team. Yeah, that would be a Tom Brady move. He's literally just out here like, how could I strengthen my GOAT debate? Even though I know I'm the best, what could I do? Maybe that's not the situation here for Tom, right? But I know for a fact, Fees, I didn't even think about that aspect there because, there's some reports that, like, guys like George Kittle and Deebo Samuel are saying, oh, Trey Lance is the guy. I totally believe in him. Like, this, that, and the third, but obviously, he only had, limited snaps throughout the year. Trey Lance came in when Jimmy G had some injury issues. But other than that, I don't know if Trey Lance has truly shown, at least to, national television when we're watching these, Sunday games, Monday, Thursday night games, that Trey Lance actually has what it takes. And, I mean, perfect allusion there to Jordan Love. I think I remember Cowherd saying it specifically. He was like, all this craziness with Aaron Rodgers is solved as Jordan Love can play. But clearly Jordan Love can't play, so they're freaking out behind the scenes. Even though we don't see that, we can kind of put 2 and 2 together to understand, okay, they wouldn't be freaking out about another quarterback if they had one in the ballots. And that's the situation here unfortunately with San Francisco, because they traded so much to get Trey Lance. I mean, we remember they literally moved mountains. We were talking about what Atlanta would take. We were talking about if someone wanted to even get into the top 10. I mean, it's literally like the real estate market today. How much is it worth it to you, and what type of cash on hand do you have to actually access that asset? And that's essentially, what the Niners showed with Trey Lance as they jumped up to get him in the 3 spot. But in terms of a winner for the trade, that's hard to put your finger on, man, because I understand, Brady walking into that San Fran system to where, the success of recent years has obviously been built around Jimmy Garoppolo's strengths and what he can do for that offense. And clearly Jimmy G worked off, Tom Brady in the years in New England. So there could be some kind of continuity there. But then you also have to ask yourself, one, when Brady went to retire, if he still got that drive for the game, because just like when Sean Payton said, look, my heart's not in it, that probably would have affected the Saints next year. So you think about that with Brady as well. But also with Jimmy G going over to a Buccaneer system, like, yes, we know that obviously they work on a very efficient offense. They've got very smart plays. They're very calculated, but can Jimmy G stay healthy? There's been, laughing rumors and memes about Blaine Gabbert potentially being the starter in place of Tom Brady. Like, Tampa does not know about their quarterback position. Kind of the same as San Francisco at the moment. Like, we know that we just moved mountains and mortgaged off a lot of the future for a Trey Lance, but we don't know what Trey Lance can do. And potentially with Brady, with that mindset, which kind of taking those actions, wanting to retire, you don't know what type of Brady you're going to get. But me personally, I'm going to take the tried and true. With the exception of this year, I've essentially never been wrong about betting against Tom Brady, so I don't know why I would do it now. I understand he's 45 years old. I totally understand, or by the time he gets there, he's going to be 45. I understand all the things that play into Tom's career, but how many times has Tom, year in and year out, literally defied the odds? And, I mean, the biggest thing for Tampa is, look, they're coming off of a Super Bowl. They're coming off of another potential, NFC championship. I understand they lost in the divisional. They're not wanting to go back. They want to win the NFC South. They want to win the wild card. They want to go all the way to the Super Bowl, of course, but at the bare minimum, they have to get back to the divisional. I don't know if replacing Jimmy G with Brady, unless you miraculously build around Jimmy within that offseason, that it's going to work for you. But that is going to wrap up Petty Sports, ladies and gentlemen. We are a couple minutes here from the 10 o'clock hour. It was a great show, of course. Fantastic show. KINGZ Broadcasting Studios is a place to check out. Pulse 880 Radio, if you're looking for a 24/7 radio station that plays plenty of types of music. Man, tonight was loaded, Fees. Again, check it out there on the screen, Pulse 880 Radio. Make sure to check them out on social media. Check out KINGZ Broadcasting Studios if you're looking for a dope studio to invest your broadcasting career in. Great rates, great equipment, great guys. I could not ask for a better team to work with here. And again, it's not about where Petty Sports puts the content out. It's about where you listen. More NFL postseason wrap-ups coming next week. We're staying in the AFC. Not sure what division we'll go to next. You'll have to tune in and find out. Fees, say goodbye to the folks, brother.
Hey, appreciate y'all as always for tuning in to Petty Sports every single Wednesday night. It's always a pleasure. next time one of y'all actually put your big boy pants on,
Right.
make a phone call.
Like 2-3 weeks.
Like we did have an interesting individual try to expose us in our messages. It didn't go so well. I mean, we had someone try to tell me that Jimmy G led San Francisco to 2 Super Bowls and went to 2 with New England. Clearly not true. If you want to jump in the comments, you want to come give us a phone call. If you want to try us like that, then by all means try us. But exposing me, that's what you will not do. But, as always, every single Wednesday night, that's what we do. We keep it petty. Y'all make sure you keep tuning in. We out.
Deuces, y'all. Next Wednesday, 8 p.m. Eastern time. Be there, call, or be square.